It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, November 12th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up and getting off to work in the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We are diving into Trump's cabinet picks. Nikki Haley, Mike Pompeo out. Stephen Miller, Thomas Homan, Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem in, plus so much more. We're going to be talking with Rory O'Neill, NBC National Correspondent, about the team that Donald Trump is bringing in with him. What do you think? Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or you can text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. We'll also get into some news around Denver. The DA launching an investigation against Jenna Griswold, DA from Denver, that is. They're going to find anything. Is this another sign that Jenna Griswold needs to resign? We'll cover that. Also, this year is looking like it could be the deadliest year for police shootings since 2020. So we'll cover that news as well, plus some of the anti-Semitism raging in Europe with those soccer battles that were taking place. Billy, did you see that in Amsterdam?
Yep, I watched videos over the weekend. Yeah, that was not good.
And it kind of seemed like both sides were initially fighting, but then there became a big hunt the Jews effort.
Yeah, that's really what happened. That's just not good. It's not unusual for soccer fans to fight each other, but this seems like what I've read. There were encrypted messages sent through Telegram, and it was coordinated as far as the attacks. So, yeah. The stuff that I was reading over the weekend were things like, hey, are the programs coming back to Europe? Is this something where it's going to, basically be more and more anti-Semitism? Is this what we're leaning into now? So, yeah, it was shocking. It was shocking to see, and absolutely awful.
And does it have anything to do with immigration, immigrating the Islamists into these European countries? There's an article in the Free Press, Make Germany More Jewish Again, making the argument that Jews bring great cultural value. They're successful people, they're successful culture, and Europe should be looking to import them, not force them out. And if it's a battle of immigration, well, then the country should honestly ask themselves, are the Islamists or the Jews better for their future? We can dive into that as well. But let's start first with news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. Happy Tuesday, Jeff and Billy. 28 and partly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 58 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story flags in Colorado will be lowered to half-staff tomorrow to honor the police officer, Evan Dunn, who was killed in the line of duty last week. A memorial service for the Golden police officer will be held at 1 o'clock tomorrow at Mission Hills Church in Littleton. The family is holding a private ceremony, but the public is invited to line West County Line Road between South Santa Fe and Lucent Boulevard to pay their respects. Dunn was killed once again last week when he and his partner were hit by a vehicle at the scene of a crash on Highway 58. The Denver district,
and he was hit by a professor from Colorado School of Mines, right?
Was he?
I thought that's why I read that. Wow.
Yeah, I just remember a drunk driver hit him.
Jeez.
Last day, that's horrible. I mean, it's just, once again, just slow down. If you can't get over to the left lane and you're in the right lane and you can't get over, at least slow down and be extremely cautious, because you just never know, especially with the weather conditions. But it's difficult enough even when it's dry. So That will be occurring tomorrow. The Denver District Attorney's Office is launching an investigation after those voter system passwords were posted online for months. Secretary of State Jenna Griswold announced a few weeks ago that her office had posted a spreadsheet on their website with a hidden tab that included passwords to voting systems. They were online for 4 months. DJT is reportedly set to tap Florida Senator Marco Rubio for the job of Secretary of State. New York Post reporting that Kash Patel emerges as top contender for CIA director. A week ago today, conservative patriots opened up a can on the left, and Van Jones still hurting.
Right now, they have everything. They got the Supreme Court, they got the Electoral College, they got the House, they got the Senate, they got the popular vote, and we're just sitting here with the dunce cap on. Last week, we thought we were the smartest people in the world. We thought Donald Trump was an idiot. We thought his campaign made no sense, and it turned out they were smarter than us, and we don't have anything to say. I can sit here and pretend I know something. Here's what I know. Everybody I know is miserable. Everybody's on these Zoom calls. Nobody's got any good ideas, and it's going to take us a while to figure this out. I'm not good at coming here and faking and pretending no, we got whooped.
But man, you're gonna go to the spa. You need a massage and a cucumber water.
I agree. And a cookie.
That's right.
Yeah, we all know Trump won, baby, and we know Kamala crazy. Everybody knows.
President Biden has separate meetings scheduled at the White House with 2 heads of state. Biden will meet with Israeli President Herzog late this morning and will then meet early this afternoon with the Indonesian president. Oprah denies that Kamala Khan paid her $1 million to do that lame interview with her.
Hey, Oprah, good morning. How are you, darling? You looking very good. How do you think the election went?
Not talking about the election. Thank you very much.
Oh, is it true that they paid you $1 million for the endorsement for Kamala?
Not true.
Not true, okay.
I was paid nothing, ever.
What do you think about all the celebrities with their mass exodus?
I'm not talking about
Do you think Prince Harry's going to lose his visa now that Trump's president?
Maybe they paid Harpo Productions. Who knows? And she didn't get any of it. Who knows? Oprah looking great there, walking up to her SUV. Democrats in the Colorado House are satisfied with their current leadership team. The party reelected Julie McCluskey as House Speaker Monday, making her the first speaker reelected since 2007. Democrats also reelected Monica Duran as House Majority Leader and Jennifer Bacon as Assistant Majority Leader. RFK Jr. says he intends to fire 600 employees at the National Institutes of Health. The comments were made at an event in Scottsdale over the weekend where RFK stressed the importance of acting fast. An audience member asked him what he would do if he could wave a magic wand, and he said we need to act fast, and we want to have those people in place on January 20th so that on January 21st, 600 people are going to walk into the offices at NIH and 600 people are going to leave. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 24 in Castle Rock, 26 in Aurora, 28 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It's Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It'll be a quiet day along the Front Range. A quick-moving front, though, may impact us a little bit tonight and early tomorrow. Highs will be 50s, partly cloudy with increasing clouds as the day wears on. Tonight, mostly cloudy. There is a small chance tonight for a few snow showers as the front zips through, lows upper 20s. Cooler behind the front, upper 40s, low 50s, but sunny Wednesday, upper 50s Thursday and Friday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, DJT building his team as he gets ready to head into the White House. Here's who he has so far. Susan Wiles, White House Chief of Staff. Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff. Thomas Homan, Border Czar. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. Mike Waltz, National Secretary or Security Advisor. Elise Stefanik, UN Ambassador. Lee Zeldin, head of the EPA. Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary. Who's out? Well, he put out an interesting statement over the weekend saying that both Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo will be out. He writes this: I will be not inviting former Ambassador Nikki Haley or former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to join the Trump administration, which is currently in formation. Mr. Trump posted on Truth Social Saturday. I very much enjoyed and appreciated working with them previously and would like to thank them for their service to our country. Now, the Wall Street Journal writing the announcement was hardly necessary. Presidents-elect pass over people for cabinet positions all the time without public declarations. Why rule them out in this way and so soon? It seems like a preemptive attempt to embarrass them, maybe? This is the top trending opinion article in the on the Wall Street Journal this morning. Now, I think everybody can understand why Nikki Haley doesn't have a role in his administration. Not only did they not get along when they served together, she was highly critical afterwards and even challenged him in the primary. So, I think presidents have every right to demand loyalty from their cabinet officials, especially with a mandate like this to move forward. And if Nikki Haley has demonstrated that she's not going to be a team player along with Donald Trump's leadership, then yeah, she's not going to be there. But Mike Pompeo's struck me a little bit more. Here is the Wall Street Journal writing about it. One online MAGA acolyte tweeted Sunday that the Stop Pompeo movement is great, but not enough. Right now, we need maximum pressure to keep all neocons and war hawks out of the Trump administration. Don Jr. retweeted his assent. Agreed. 100%, 100%, 100%. I'm on it. Now, Donald Trump Jr. was absolutely critical in the J.D. Vance decision, right? And that turned out to be a really good decision. But what is Donald Trump's foreign policy going to look like? If the hawks are not there, and I don't think he's a dove, he's definitely more isolationist. He's proven time and time again he's willing to drop a bomb on a bad guy if he needs to. He doesn't want to be into these kind of forever wars. That's going to be one of the key hallmarks of his foreign policy. But he doesn't want to have anything to do with the neocons. So what does Donald Trump's foreign policy going to look like?
I'm not certain he knows. I don't think he has a plan. I don't think he has an idea. I think what he does know is he wants to be friends with Xi and he wants to be friends with Putin and he dislikes NATO. And so that will govern a lot of things.
Friends is the right word to describe?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't think friends is the right word to describe.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. I mean, this is a guy that he stood with Putin. This is a guy that he stood on stage with. And when confronted that every Western agency said that Russia meddled in the election, he said, I looked him in his eye and he told me he didn't. Why would he lie to me? Yeah, he wants to be friends with him. Yes,
By the way, where was the Russian
absolutely
meddling in this election?
Oh, it was there.
I kept feeling like I was waiting for a big thing to break.
No, it was there. It was there. It just, the issue is that once the election came to the end, it just became somewhat moot. It was just like you heard all these people wringing their hands and clutching their pearls about, oh, look, the fraud has already started. The fraud has already started. And then when all of a sudden Trump starts winning, where did all those fraud stories go? That was weird. Wasn't that weird? That in the news cycle, we had a lot of people out there talking about voter fraud was all of a sudden happening. And then when Trump starts winning, those stories evaporated into space. But yeah, there was Russian interference. They called in bomb threats to a series of, oddly enough, mostly Democrat polling places. There was misinformation online that was circulated. The Haitian video that was talking about two guys, hey, we're voting, we're from Haiti, we're voting twice, woo! That was Russian disinformation. That was completely and totally made up. And the guy came out and said he was paid to do it. He came out
By
afterwards.
Russia?
Yeah. Said, yeah, he got cash for it. He got $100 to do it. Yes. So, yeah, I know. So it was there. We've decided in the news cycle, it didn't matter anymore.
So it was like, I don't know the details about the bomb threats, but just a handful of videos.
Yeah. I mean, not handful. There were hundreds of videos that were AI
I
and things like
saw
that, but
weird AI videos of women saying that they were supportive of Trump.
Oh, there were lots of them.
Yeah. Those didn't turn out to be true.
There are lots of them out there that were weird.
But
AI.
see
They
mass,
ran that a lot.
Mass disinformation that would have flipped an actual election. But
again, I didn't say it was massive disinformation, nor did I think it flipped the election. I don't think that any way, shape, or form. But did they try to meddle? Oh, absolutely. But we try to meddle in other elections as well, and it should be expected. But the thing was, the narrative was it just disappeared. But Trump does want to be friends with Putin. He does want to be friends with Xi. He talked about the big, wonderful friendship letter he got from Kim Jong-un. He was very proud of that. In fact, you remember that was one of the things he was mad about.
Don't you think the goal, though, with Trump,
Florida.
And this always seems like, I mean, the idea that he wants to be friends just to be friends, or he likes dictators, I don't think is the right take. I think he looks at how you negotiate with people like Kim Jong-un and Putin and others and goes, we don't always have to be outright hostile in order to get what we want. But to become friends, that seems like a bridge too far.
Well, all I'm saying is that, he was confronted during his last administration with all Western intelligence agencies telling them something happened. And his solution was to look Putin in the eye and ask him.
But we didn't have the Ukraine invasion yet. And Trump talks about how his personal conversations with Putin prevented that from happening.
I would disagree with that. I would disagree with that. He says a lot of things that happened. I mean, how many times did he tell us about big, strong men breaking down into tears in front of him? He says a lot of things. Yeah, you can't believe everything he says, honestly.
So I'm interested to hear what you think Trump's foreign policy is going to be. There was a really interesting New York Times video yesterday where they went and talked with soldiers and veterans from the Iraq War. Now, 20 years removed from that, what did they think they were fighting for? What did they think we got out of that? Was it worth it? And there was one line that was just like a gut punch.
Yeah.
It was, George W. Bush at least owes me a beer. I mean, it was these guys 20 years removed after all that going, I have no idea what we were doing there.
Oh, no.
And even other guys, there's one really powerful moment, black soldier, and the picture's taken, and he's put into an article in Time magazine, and he's got his knee on the chest of an Iraqi man. They had invaded the wrong house.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like trying to 20 years later look back on this and go, we invaded the wrong house. This guy is trying to defend his family. And I punch him, put my knee on his chest. And 20 years later, there was a massive movement in this country because police officers had put their knees on the chest of a guy named George Floyd in a neck. Yeah. But like, and this guy's black and he's trying to reason through, did I participate in the same things that I opposed 20 years later simply because I was ordered to do so? And powerful video vignette put together by the New York Times looking at the Iraq War through the eyes of veterans 20 years later. So that I bring that up because that feeds this discussion about what Trump's foreign policy. And I think his opposition to the Iraq War is wildly personal to him, like deeply personal to Donald Trump. And it motivates him to not put our troops into that type of situation again.
I don't think he has any deep-held opposition to the Iraq War. I believe, and I could be wrong on the timeline, I don't think he came out until late in it to actually be against it. He wasn't one of the people that was beforehand saying we shouldn't be doing it. He didn't talk about it. And on balance, what I would say is look at the amount of time Donald Trump spent talking about the Iraq War versus the amount of time he talked about whether or not Barack Obama was born in this country. Which one was more important to him? on balance, it was more about whether or not Obama was born in this country. So I disagree that that was a strongly held belief for him. I think it's much, much, much more utilitarian. He comes in my recollection, he comes in very late on that story arc to kind of go, me too, to say, I disagree with it
the
too.
timing doesn't matter to me as much as him going and being deeply opposed to it. And
Well,
if that is something that he's passionately opposed to, I'm more concerned about what that's going to mean moving forward, which means he is not going to put our country in those types of positions. So I guess my question to listeners, to you, Bill, let's try to game out what Donald Trump's foreign policy is going to look like. I think it's going to look similar to what we had 4 years ago when he was president, which means he's going to have the cojones to take out bad guys like Soleimani. He's willing to press those boundaries, but there is now a very significant shift within the Republican Party against hawkish forever wars to be more isolationist, to really only put our troops in harm's way if there's a direct benefit to the United States of America. I think that's what his foreign policy is going to look like.
Yeah, see, I felt if he was deeply concerned about the Iraq war, he'd be out speaking about it beforehand. I disagree with the characterization that's a deeply held belief. For me, it's a bandwagon moment. And again, and what I would put on the table would be the difference between how many times he spoke out against the Iraq war versus how many times he spoke out against Barack Obama being born in the U.S. He was doing much more on that. That seems to be a more deeply held belief based on his actions than what he did in the Iraq war. I think that his international relationships are utilitarian. He will get out of UN what he thinks he can get out of the UN. He'll get out of NATO what he thinks he can get out of NATO. And the same thing with the strong-armed dictators that, again, he has said very powerful people. He complimented on the invasion of Ukraine. He complimented Putin. That's crazy. Imagine if Reagan would have complimented Russia or the USSR on invading another sovereign country, saying it was brilliant. He said it was brilliant or genius or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but he complimented on the invasion. That is crazy. Our American president complimented our enemy on them invading another country. That's where we're going with foreign policy. That's it. And we go to the Soleimani thing, yes, but I brought that up before, that Iran retaliated and he did nothing. He wasn't necessarily the strongman. Iran feels like they got one over on Trump because after we hit Soleimani, they hit back and we didn't do anything. They felt like they quieted the great American beast. That we didn't come back.
There was no major fatalities, right? You had no one died in their response.
But more than 80 people received Purple Hearts and were removed from service because of brain injuries and more. And remember this, it was the largest ballistic missile attack directed at a U.S. base ever. Yes, Iran looks at it as a gold star. If Iran can pull off the largest ballistic missile attack at a U.S. base and nothing happens in retaliation, they're going to take that as a win. You would if it was the largest military attack against a China base or a Russian base or something else. The U.S. would say, well, they're not responding because we win this one. Yeah, they take it as a win. Yes, absolutely they do.
I don't think they take it as a win. By the way, Trump was opposed to the Iraq war in April 2004, told Howard Stern that Iraq is a terrible mistake. Then went on in July of 2004, lamenting the deaths and injuries among Americans and Iraqis, saying that, and this turns out that all the reasons for the war were blatantly wrong. All of this for nothing in 2004. So yeah, it wasn't right at the start of it, but that was pretty early on in that engagement.
I doubt that's a deeply held belief, though, versus how he behaved
you don't
with
think
Barack
so?
Obama.
I think it's
no, not in the least.
I think it is.
No,
and I think it's motivating him to stay out, and I think that's why Mike Pompeo doesn't have a job in the Trump administration. Well, want to get to your phone calls and texts. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line. Iggy's saying that Tulsi Gabbard would be better than Kristi Noem for Homeland Security Secretary. What do you think about that? Kristi Noem being appointed this morning. Big names coming in on Trump's team. Would love to hear your thoughts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Social media is on fire as the race for Senate leadership heats up. Many allies of President Donald Trump and nearly everyone who voted Republican this election cycle is speaking out in favor of Senator Rick Scott from Florida, who is a proven Trump supporter and winner on the economy and jobs. Meanwhile, no love coming in for Senators John Cronyn and John Thune, who are known to many as rhinos that have both spoken out against Trump and his agenda. And now a new report coming in saying that there is internal backlash against the conservatives who are vocally supporting Rick Scott for Senate Majority Leader. And senators don't take kindly to having an army of social media trolls attack them. Not the best look for elected officials as the criticism came in swift and hard. The Hodge twins taking to X saying any senator still listening to Mitch McConnell is a backstabbing traitor. Vote Rick Scott for Majority Leader. The party of Mitch McConnell is gone. Nova Campaigns posting videos of Cronyn saying his previous statements are disqualifying.
Under the effective leadership of Director Wray, the agency has remained committed to doing things independently and by the book.
As for Rick Scott, he's ready to go, posting that for too long, the Washington establishment has spent money our country doesn't have and added trillions to our national debt. It makes me sick to think we could pass this problem on to our grandkids. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Owayo, Salem News Channel.
Discussed with Senator Kaine a little bit about whether or not the president has the authority to bomb Assad's forces or installations in Syria. And you mentioned historically, well, we've done it in the past. I don't think that's a complete enough answer. I mean, my question would be, do you think it's constitutional authority to bomb Assad?
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So Mike Pompeo is out. Now, Donald Trump posting on True Social that both Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo are not going to have roles in his administration. Now, Nikki Haley wasn't a surprise to me, but Mike Pompeo a little bit. He's been rather loyal to Donald Trump as a defense hawk. But are there changes happening in the Republican Party as it relates to foreign policy that we should be paying attention to? I found this exchange between Rand Paul and Mike Pompeo interesting. Billy, are we able to cue that up? Great. All right, great. We'll play this.
Discussed with Senator Kaine a little bit about whether or not the president has the authority to bomb Assad's forces or installations in Syria. And you mentioned historically, well, we've done it in the past. I don't think that's a complete enough answer. I mean, my question would be, do you think it's constitutional? Does the president have the constitutional authority to bomb Assad's forces? Does he have the authority, absent congressional action, to bomb Assad's forces or installations?
Senator, as I think I said to Senator Kaine, I'm happy to repeat my view on this. Those decisions are waiting. Every place we can, we should work alongside Congress to get that. But yes, I believe the president has the domestic authority to do that. I don't think that has been disputed by Republicans or Democrats throughout an extended period of time.
Actually, it's disputed mostly by our founding fathers who believe they gave that authority to Congress. And actually, they're uniformly opposed to the executive branch having that power. In fact, Madison wrote very specifically, he said, the executive branch is the branch most prone to war. Therefore, we have, with studied care, vested that authority in the legislature. So the fact that we have in the past done this doesn't make it constitutional. And I would say that I take objection to the idea that the president can go to war when he wants, where he wants.
I'm a lot more sympathetic to this argument than I was years ago. I was a neocon. I wrote in support of the Iraq war. It was a mistake. I look back on the bloodshed, even among my own friends that died in those wars, and I don't understand what we achieved with it. I get the initial arguments. Following 9/11, we were deeply concerned that Saddam Hussein was reckless and had weapons of mass destruction. Number two, it was better to fight them over there than it was to fight them here. And so I get all those, but 20 plus years removed from it, I'm not sure it was all right to go and do that. And 20 years ago, I would have been with Pompeo on this. I'm more sympathetic now to Rand Paul. And I wonder too if the Trump administration is as well. Maybe not Donald Trump himself, possibly, but I think Don Jr., Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, some of those guys around there are going, maybe handing so much power to the executive to kick off some of these wars isn't right, and it needs to be more legislative. And I think some of those arguments early on that the executive needs to have more power to be able to do this because Congress is too slow has probably faded away, because you can hold a very quick meeting of Congress if you needed to respond to something. I don't know. What do you think, Bill?
I'm happy that in theory Congress would pull back the power to make war. Although I'm skeptical under a Trump administration, because the entire plan for the Trump administration is for a unitary executive. Congress gets in the way, and so does the Supreme Court. Congress should just execute what the executive wants, and the Supreme Court should just be the legal arm, along with the DOJ of the president. That's how I believe Trump views it. That's what we've seen in the way that he moves. So he would be directly against Rand Paul. He would say that absolutely, because he's the president, he can do whatever he wants, and that he can, through order. I mean, he just recently had talked about how he will eliminate transgender people in women's sports by just issuing an executive order. Can't do that. But that's how he views the executive office. He views it just like him being the CEO.
You don't think through Title IX you can do that?
I don't think he. No, I don't think he can. I don't think so.
I think Biden did it through an executive order that essentially
he didn't ban anybody in transgender.
No, but
sports.
he lumped transgenderism into the Title IX reading of essentially fairness in sports.
It's not necessarily that way. The idea is that through executive order, I understand what he was doing with Title IX, but he's looking at the idea of it being discriminated to population. And there you have some legal wiggle room, but going through an executive order and banning what sports groups can do across the country. I don't think the president has that power. I don't think that he has command over JV sports at Cherry Creek Middle Schools. I don't think there are JV sports at Cherry Creek High School. I don't think he has command over that decision. I don't think, and again, why would the president be given that authority?
Because it's in Title IX, and it would be a reading of Title IX.
But again, it's the idea of governing through the executive order, and that's the idea. It's the unitary executive. That's where I'm going with that.
Yeah, it's
the idea of the unitary executive, and so the idea that Congress can constrain his power to make war, decide who he can bomb. No. He doesn't like that at all. He doesn't like that in one shape at all. There's no way. There's no way he's going to go along with that.
I wonder if he's more sympathetic to that.
What would give you the what in his behavior gives you the impression that he wants to have another group that is comprised of over 500 people tell him what he has the ability to do or not? There's no way he wants that.
A few things. One, his deep suspicion of spy agencies in the deep state. So their ability to wage war, to act independently of duly elected people like the president, makes me believe that he might be sympathetic to weakening the executive branch on this particular issue. That's one. Two, a lot of the people around him, everyone from J.D. Vance to Donald Trump Jr. to Elon Musk, have seemed to be far more isolationist, and in that strain possibly might be open to the idea of returning the powers back to Congress.
Yeah, no. Because again, I still believe that Trump views Congress as an impediment. That he basically, I almost imagine when they sit down and they tried to explain to him, here are the three branches of government, sir, and here's why, and this is the power they have and the constraint, and his response, this is all my opinion, was, yeah, we need to fix that. We don't need that anymore. That holds things up. That prevents me from doing what I need to, because that's his world. So I can't imagine any way, shape, or form that he would acquiesce that kind of power, especially the power to make war, to 500 people he doesn't agree with all the time, and some of which he hates. There's no way he would give that power to that group. No way he would.
Text message from 7586. He said, don't forget that Trump tried to fire 2,000 State Department diplomats, but that would be weakening the executive branch on foreign policy, because the State Department works for the president.
Yeah, but why was he firing them?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Issue. I don't, but my guess would be something about loyalty or not liking the people or not this or the other thing. So that's probably it. That's how he functions. So that would probably be the idea.
See, that's where it goes back to me. There's this deep state within these executive agencies of rulemaking, of people that are not elected making decisions that I think he hates.
And could that be it, that he fired the people of the State Department because they weren't allowing him to do and flex his muscles the way that he wanted to? They were telling him, no, you can't go and declare war. No, you can't do this. And again, I'm just inventing that. But the idea, if the State Department came into him and said, no, sir, you're not allowed to go and declare war on your own or start this on your own. We need to go to Congress, etc. Just like you're hoping would happen. He would go, no. Y'all are fired. I get to do what I want. Well, that's what he wants.
It seems like we might be on the precipice of a brand new American foreign policy. We saw elements of it under Trump's first 4 years. It is a rejection of what took place under Bush, partly under Obama, because if you remember, Obama dropped a lot of drone strikes on people. He may not have gone to war at the same level that George W. Bush did, but this is a pivot, I think, within American foreign policy that still wants to be strong. I don't think that this is dovish policy, walking away from battles or allowing China, Russia to just do whatever they want on the international stage. I think he's going to be a tough negotiator, but I think Donald Trump's looking at the power of American might outside of just direct military power, forever wars. He's looking at the power of our economy. He's looking at the power of our people, and he's trying to find ways towards international peace that don't rely on 20-plus year wars where the American people sacrifice a ton of treasure and blood and don't have anything to show for it 20-plus years later. I think he looks at that as a massive waste of resources But at the same time, I don't see him just handing Putin, Xi, Kim, the leader of North Korea, Kim Il-sung, whatever they want. I think he's going to be pretty tough on the national stage. That's what I think is going to be the foreign policy.
Putin wants Ukraine. He's going to give it to him.
I don't think he's going to give him Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, he will. He'll give him what he'll do is, I mean, it may be addressing of, we'll just stop this right now and they can keep all the territory that they have at that point. But still, he's going to side with Putin on that one. And in fact, I mean, you had the idea that, I mean, when he had met with Zelensky, when Zelensky came to Mar-a-Lago and they're having the co-press conference, Trump takes a moment to talk about the strong relationship he has with Putin during the press conference when he's standing next to Zelensky.
But he still says he has support for Ukraine and Zelensky.
I know, but imagine that. Imagine any other president.
Because he's saying that he can negotiate a deal here.
Saying that he has a strong relationship with them. No, not when you're standing next to your ally that was democratically elected. You don't turn around and go, oh yeah, and we also have a good relationship with the guy that we dislike and our enemy. You don't do that. Not in that setting. That would be ridiculous. That would be absolutely ridiculous.
Would you accept peace between Ukraine and Russia if it meant that Ukraine was not part of NATO?
No, because
really.
And here's why. I want Ukraine to have self-determination. If Ukraine decides we will have peace with Russia and not join NATO, okay. But I am 110% away from any other country walking in and saying this is what you're going to accept for this peace deal. No. Why? If we're talking about we're not going around and starting these wars and these things, then why do we think that we get to choose what Ukraine should accept inside of this conflict? No, let them choose. They should be allowed to choose. And if they don't want to join NATO, they can make that choice. We should not ever tell them that. That's ridiculous.
So if Ukraine gets to choose that, then the other countries get to choose whether or not they want Ukraine to be a part of NATO.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely. That seems totally fair.
They can go, you know what? This is going to kick off a giant war with Russia. We don't want it.
That's totally fair.
So sorry, Ukraine.
Yeah.
It sucks the geographic lotto you got in life. But we're not risking war with Europe and Russia in order to defend.
Yeah, we are going to, and NATO will decide. We are going to then defer to our enemy and let them choose the rules of engagement, which again undermines the strength of NATO. NATO should not care at all if Russia doesn't want a NATO country on their border. Sorry, don't care. We're not going to invade. NATO's not invading Russia. NATO's never been an aggressor towards Russia. Russia's been the aggressor. Russia should not have any say-so as to whether or not a NATO country is on their border.
They don't get any say-so as to the alliances that there are countries that border them?
No, they don't. That's self-determination based on those countries, not based on you.
What about I'm not defending Russia, but it seems
do we get to have a voice in who Mexico has territory, has alliances with? No.
Especially if we feel like they might threaten us.
No, if Mexico wants to have an alliance with someone else, we don't get to go, oh, wait, Mexico. No, Mexico can still make that choice. We can be angry about it all we want, but so what? So what? And the idea that we would turn and say, Putin, is it okay? Is it okay if we let these countries into NATO? Are you okay with this? Really? Really? The GOP in America has gone so far to start asking our enemy if it's okay if we have more allies in the area. We are a failed country at that point. We are a failed country. And I don't want to hear anything about rebuilding the military and saluting the flag and how strong we are and how we're defending freedom. I don't want to hear anything else about it if we are going to say, Russia, is it okay that we don't have any people that like us on your border? Is it okay? Oh my God, don't get mad at us. If we're going to be that weak on it,
I am not willing to send our treasure and our sons to go die because these two countries have an issue. All right, look, with all the work I've had done to my teeth, believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to talk to you about Dr. Mike and the Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. Every single person in this office is delightful. Their knowledge and consultative approach to dental care is fantastic. We highly recommend to everyone I know. If your gums are receding, it's critical to address this issue promptly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique. This method requires no cutting, no sutures, and virtually no downtime. The pinhole surgery is so painless that many clients go on to have other areas of their mouth treated as well. They also offer sedation if you have any apprehension at all. So schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike. Call 303-233-1335 or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com, RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Bill, that debate kicked off the text messages, which we'll get to in the next hour, because we're going to continue this conversation about Trump's pick as he heads into the White House. But we got to give the people what they want, Bill.
Yes, it is time to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. We call it You Choose the News. I have scoured the interwebs for moments this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans, giving them even more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show. Why? Nobody in charge has any idea. We waste time at this part of the morning. They don't wake up for about another 9 minutes, so we are going to take full advantage of when we are left unsupervised. Lesson for everybody. All right, also remember, this is a tiny secret between Jeff, Blake, myself, and our listeners. Don't tell the people in power because they'll make us stop this. And come on, it's fun. All righty, here we go. Gentlemen, Blake Olson in the newsroom and Jeff Hunt in the studio. Here are your choices. Headline number 1, Free Winnie. Headline number 2, Bargain Shopping. Headline number 3, I'm all right. And headline number 4, Explanation of warning labels. Mr. Hunt, your
Let's
choice.
start with I'm all right.
Yeah,
please.
I'm all right. You might remember the Kenny Loggins song from Caddyshack, and that's exactly what we are referring to here. Back in 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted. The fiery blast of molten rock and scorching ash left miles of debris surrounding the landscape. It was left in ruins. There were plant trees, and every living thing in the path was incinerated. So scientists pulled something out of Caddyshack and started to rebuild the ecosystem with gophers. Yeah, they had done a study figuring out that there weren't a lot of plants that were living in the area post-blast. They had an idea that because gophers is the way that they live and they burrow underground, they'll actually encourage the microbes and biomes inside of the soil to start producing plants. And they tried it. They went back and they said just within 10 years, it was amazing to see how much biodiversity was back just in one little area. More than 40,000 individual plants were found in just an area where they dropped all these gophers and said over the course of 40 years, yeah, it's gophers that's responsible for the biome now. So back
Bill Murray, take a seat.
Exactly. All righty, Blake Olson, Free Winnie, Bargain Shopping, or Explanation of warning labels.
Free Winnie?
Winnie, yes, Free Winnie.
Oh,
Free
Winnie.
Yeah.
Winnie.
No, Winnie.
Sorry.
Free Winnie. Like, this is, because,
Winnie.
Yes, and his friend Piglet, and Rabbit. And
Winnie.
Yes, Free Winnie. Yes, because we've got to free Winnie because a man in Tennessee has now been arrested. Turns out he's now accused of killing his friend, not a bear killing his friend, as he originally said. Now, what happened was the case began, Brandon Andre called 911 claiming that he was injured after he was chased by a bear and fell off a cliff. Call was pinged in the area, and a small mountain town in Tennessee, population about 800 people, body was found. The ID, Brandon Christopher Andre, but it wasn't him. The identity had been stolen, used multiple times. The person was also not killed by a bear. Officers pretty quickly discovered this was murder. They have identified a suspect, and the guy's now behind bars. Yes.
Not the bear.
Not the bear. No, so Winnie is free.
Winnie.
Which is
try.
great. Yeah, exactly. Was a bear. All righty. Jeff Hunt, your final choice this morning, sir. Bargain shopping or explanation of warning labels?
Bargain shopping.
Yes, bargain shopping. You know, when you go on the Facebooks, that Facebook marketplace, you can find some really weird things for sale, but also some amazing bargains. And now, if you were on Facebook marketplace in Texas recently, you could have got a baby. Yes, 21-year-old Juniper Bryson is under arrest because she offered people her newborn baby. She put it up for sale for the highest bidder. She originally said she just wanted to facilitate an adoption, but the text messages back and forth realized now she's looking for financial gain from selling the baby.
Oh,
yeah.
geez.
So baby's
There's
been yanked
be a
from
lot
her.
Of therapy to recover from that.
Yeah, not surprisingly, she is on drugs. Yeah. Lot of drugs.
Sad.
Yeah. Back to you, sir.
All right. Well, we're going to continue our conversation on Trump's cabinet picks.
KNUS.
That's the first time I've heard that, Bill. That
Me
was
too.
a funny
That was
audio.
I like that one. That was fun.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, November 12th, 1 week removed from DJT's massive red wave win. Congratulations. And we're kicking off a whole nother hour discussing the team he's putting together. Are you excited about it? Is it the right people? Is there anybody in there that makes you raise an eyebrow as to whether or not they're the best to do the job? We're going to talk with Rory O'Neill, national correspondent with NBC Radio, here in just a second, as Republicans are just a handful of seats away from keeping control of the House. President Trump's new administration is starting to take shape, and the Senate will vote on new leadership tomorrow. So, yes, the politicking major elections wrapped up last week, but major decisions on the future of this country are being made this week, and we're providing all the coverage you need. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Let's start with news and comment from Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. 28 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 58 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, President-elect Trump working to fill spots necessary for his incoming administration. Reports say he's expected to name Florida Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, former Congressman from New York Lee Zeldin to lead the Environmental Protection Agency, and New York Representative Elise Stefanik to serve, of course, once again as the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is reportedly DJT's pick for Department of Homeland Security Secretary. Florida Senator Rubio, we talked about that, and the New York Post reporting that Kash Patel emerging as the top contender for CIA director.
What the deep state uses the most to cover up their corruption is an illegal application of the classification system. Remember the Lovebirds text from, this is a beauty, the Lovebirds text from FBI, DOJ land, Russiagate, Strzok and Page were texting each other. Who they were running the Russiagate investigation against Trump. They were the head of the counterintelligence unit at the FBI, and they're having an extramarital affair together. Can't make this stuff up. They're sending each other texts about how much they hate Trump and are going to create an insurance policy to stop Trump. Then we finally find those text messages. You know what the FBI and DOJ do for like a year? Redact them to congressional investigators and congressional men and women running the oversight.
Yeah, that's the one right there. Crucial after all the corruption that we have seen in the past 4 years. He's already tapped former DJT, former acting director of ICE, Tom Homan, to serve as the new border czar.
And we know what happens to these children, Sean. And look, the illegal aliens coming across the border, people need to understand, 31% of women that make that journey get raped by criminal cartels. Children get raped. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 that have been raped multiple times. These cartels are animals, and that's why President Trump's going to take them off the face of the earth. They have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world. And President Trump is committed to calling them terrorist organization and using the full might of the United States Special Operations to take them out.
Homan on Fox last night with Hannity. President Biden welcomes Israeli President Isaac Herzog to the White House today. Their meeting comes as Israel faces a U.S.-imposed deadline this week to improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza or risk restrictions on further security assistance. They cannot wait for Trump to take office. A day after his victory for Colorado's 8th congressional district, Republican U.S. Representative-elect Gabe Evans spoke on his priorities for his term in Congress. Evans said that his first bill will be focused on making sure federal agencies work with state and local law enforcement to secure the border and remove violent criminals. Evans emphasized that he is not a fan of separating families. Outside of immigration, Evans said that he is focused on keeping the Space Force in Colorado and making living in the state more affordable. But you knew all of that because he was on Jeff and Billy yesterday morning. Democrats in the Colorado House are satisfied with their current leadership team. The party reelected Julie McCluskey as House Speaker Monday, making her the first speaker reelected since 2007. Democrats also reelected Monica Duran as House Majority Leader and Jennifer Bacon as Assistant Majority Leader. Over a dozen monkeys are still on the loose after escaping from a research facility last week in South Carolina. Officials with the Alpha Genesis say 43 monkeys originally escaped and 30 have since been recaptured. The animals are reportedly in good health.
George, dinner. Hey, is that one of my socks?
And a man is behind bars after he was found living in the crawl space of an elderly woman's home in East LA. Why doesn't that shock me? The resident and her family called police to report loud noises coming from beneath the house, which they had previously assumed came from animals. So there's some big animals. Officers used tear gas to flush the man out after negotiating failed. The family of the 93-year-old woman who lives there says that he may have been staying there for up to 6 months. Last night, Avalanche over the Preds 3-2 in the NFL. Monday Night Football, Dolphins over the Rams 23-15. 23 in Littleton, 26 in Centennial, 28 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue Tuesday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It'll be a quiet day along the Front Range. A quick-moving front, though, may impact us a little bit tonight and early tomorrow. Highs will be 50s, partly cloudy with increasing clouds as the day wears on. Tonight, mostly cloudy. There is a small chance tonight for a few snow showers as the front zips through, lows upper 20s. Cooler behind the front, upper 40s, low 50s, but sunny Wednesday, upper 50s Thursday and Friday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Billy, you know who I think would be great in the Trump administration?
Oh, who would that be, my friend?
Dan Caplis.
Good choice.
Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. This guy's pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. He's with us on the values. That matters, number one, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everybody involved in the case. You just hire somebody because it went by on a bus billboard. It's not going to work out well. You need somebody that everybody in the courtroom trusts and knows is a good guy. And that matters a lot. But really what matters? Winning. And that is Dan Caplis. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed, and listen to this, to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted that they're the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. You might say to yourself, I can't afford this guy. Don't worry, it's not true. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis. That means he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So I want you to put his phone number in your phone because you're likely not in a car accident right now where you need to call him right away. But when that happens, you need to be able to call him immediately. Here's Dan's phone number, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. All right, so Bill, during the news break there, we're talking the team that Donald Trump's going in with him, right? Yes. Susan Wiles, White House correspondent, Stephen Miller. And then Blake brought up Kash Patel. Now, I don't know much about Kash, but you don't seem to be a big fan of Kash Patel.
He's a conspiracy-minded fearmonger, in my opinion. He's a guy that trafficked in a whole bunch of disinformation. He was one of the leading voices about the election being
Sounds
stolen.
Perfect for the CIA.
Yeah, I know. But again, he was the guy that was sitting there in
Hunter's laptop.
Leading voice for election disinformation and elections being stolen. He trafficked in a false narrative about what happened in January 6th. So, yeah, that's who's going to be in charge of the CIA. So, that's an absolute nightmare. That is just awful. I mean, I can't come to a rational analogy that even works, because it's almost mind-bogglingly idiotic. He doesn't have anything in his background that gives you the slightest that he would be ready or able to lead that branch of the government. However, that's not the point. I don't think
he served on the U.S. National Security Council official, senior advisor to acting director of national intelligence, and chief of staff to acting U.S. Secretary.
Yeah, during
United
Trump's
States Secretary of
administration.
Defense.
And then went out afterwards and told a bunch of lies about stuff. So again, I am not of the opinion that because Trump put him in the job the first time that they were able to do the job. Remember, he put a lot of people in jobs that said they weren't qualified afterwards. We can go through Rex Tillerson, who talks about Mike Pompeo, did a good job for him, but now doesn't want him back in the administration. He doesn't like General Mark Milley, doesn't like General Kelly. There's a long list of people that he put in positions that he now said they suck. And so just because they were put in a position, I mean, the final attorney general he tried to appoint post Bill Barr was there only because the guy said, I'll say the election was stolen for you, boss. I'll say it is. I got a letter right here. That was the reason he was supposed to be there. And that person has lost his law license because of it. So the idea that he was qualified in the first place, no. But again, this is not about qualifications. This is about loyalty. Trump was open about that in the election.
I don't think it's either or.
Oh, no, it is. It's all loyalty.
Which president's not hiring based on loyalty?
Well, I know, but where do you rank it, though? Do you rank it as number one, or do you rank it as 2, 3, 4, 5?
I think it's a combination. It's a mix. Look, there's got to be a ranking system. What's most important? And for me, competency is most important. For the Trump administration, it's loyalty. And he said that, and that's okay. It's his administration. He can do it the way he wants. I don't think they're separate from each other.
Yeah, they are.
You could be a disloyal, competent person, and you think that would be a good thing in a cabinet position?
Yeah, I think
they're mixed together.
Here's the thing is, I would want someone who's the person in the room asking the question or saying no. That's the person you want. And that's the person that Trump views as being disloyal, because he came to Mike Pence and said, I need you to do this for me so we can change the results of the election. And Pence said no, and now he's disloyal.
I've run businesses, run think tanks, hired people, all that stuff. I don't mind somebody challenging, disagreeing, all that stuff, but I'm not hiring somebody just to say no.
I know, but here's the thing, though. You're not the president. We're talking about Trump's decision-making processes. This is irrelevant to my decision-making process, yours, or any of the listeners' decision-making processes. He's been very open that it is about loyalty. The people that are running the campaign talked about how the first test is going to be loyalty, not the ability to do the job or anything else. You just got to make sure you're wearing the jersey, and then everything else comes in. That's it.
Yeah, I just don't see them as separate and going, well, this person's loyal but incompetent. I think what Trump's doing, like we do with all hires, is blend them. Some people have certain strengths, and as a hiring manager, you go, well, they're on mission. They love what they're doing. They might not be fully there, but I think we can get them where they need to be and really push them, and they'll be great at their job. In other cases, they might be really good at their job. We're going to take a little risk on their loyalty, but I don't blame a president for emphasizing loyalty. Joe Biden did the exact same thing with his hires.
Let's evaluate.
I don't know why all of a sudden this becomes a problem with Trump.
Because Kash Patel's an idiot. And let's walk through this for a second. Remember, this is the guy that he wants to put in charge of the CIA that had the inability to realize that the 2020 election wasn't stolen, had the inability to analyze the information and come to the conclusion that was in front of him.
The guys that came from the CIA, was that big number of former intelligence officers that all signed that letter saying that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. I look at that and go, well, he might be, he's got to be a step up than those guys. And those were the guys that were running the CIA. Well, joining us is NBC News national correspondent Rory O'Neill. The Republicans getting much closer. They probably, I think, have locked up control of the House at this point. President-elect Trump's new administration taking shape, and the Senate voting tomorrow on its leadership. There's a whole lot to cover here. Rory, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Happy Tuesday, guys.
So, Rory, you don't get a week off, huh? You just go right in from the election into analysis of Trump's picks, huh?
Somebody's got to do it. Oh, my time will come.
So, a lot of news happening this week. Give us an update.
All right, so let's start at the top of the heap, shall we? President-elect Trump picking some more people we believe will be joining his administration. Today, we should get confirmation that Senator Marco Rubio from Florida will be the Trump pick to become the next Secretary of State. Last night came word that Governor Kristi Noem from South Dakota will take over as the Secretary of Homeland Security. She'll be working with the man that Donald Trump wants to be the next border czar. That would be Tom Homan. And Michael Waltz, a Florida congressman, also named to become Donald Trump's national security advisor as well. That's just some of the names we know.
Yeah, and how is it being received in Washington, D.C. from your perspective?
It seems so far so good. I thought nothing totally surprising. Maybe Kristi Noem wasn't expected for that cabinet role, but yeah, I don't think anything is really shocking. I think Rubio was almost expected at this point. Some of the questions now are, who replaces Rubio? So that will be up to the Florida governor to decide who will be the replacement for Senator Rubio. Leading thought is that Byron Donalds, a Southwest Florida congressman, African-American, you always see him on TV. He might be the choice to be the next Florida senator. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But that leads to the other problem of what's going on in the House of Representatives. You talked about it earlier. It looks like the GOP will retain control of the House. As the numbers look right now, write this in pencil, 222 GOP, 13 Democrats. But as I just said, 2 of those Republicans are now going up to join the Trump administration. So it's really 220. And then if Donalds is picked, well, now we're down to 219. So 219, 213, that's going to be pretty tough to manage for any speaker.
Do you expect Mike Johnson to remain Speaker of the House if these are the numbers? Will the Republican caucus keep him there?
I would say yes, also because it's a pretty thankless job these days when the margins are so thin, and that it's a lot of them may say this is as good as we're going to get. And then flip the coin. Remember, Nancy Pelosi had the squad that was always her problem, right? 6 or 8 members that just wouldn't fall in line. Mike Johnson could have that problem on his side. That all it takes is 5 or 6 members to not fall in line, and he could see a tough time getting his agenda through.
Big vote tomorrow in the U.S. Senate. This is a racehorse that seems to be a race that seems to be playing out on X primarily. Right. Lots of debates. Elon Musk weighing in, Donald Trump Jr. weighing in. It seems like they're organizing behind Rick Scott. There's a lot there. There's institutional knowledge to guide through the Senate that Mitch McConnell had, decades and decades of experience with, but wasn't always with the Trump administration on his agenda. So how is this all playing out in the Senate for leadership of it?
Well, and then that's remember, this is a vote behind closed doors, secret ballot. So we don't really know how they're going to vote, even when it's over. So maybe they have different thoughts. And some are saying that the Rick Scott pressure campaign, having people like Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and RFK Jr. All support him, might be overplaying his hand a little bit. One of the concerns is that some senators are like, hey, we don't want to be just a yes man for Donald Trump. We are our own institution. We want to do our own things. He has to, we just don't want to be his lapdog. So that might be why they're leaning more towards Senator John Thune or Senator John Cronyn from Texas. So we'll see. There are 3 Republican senators all fighting for this majority leader position. I think Scott's got that MAGA wing, but that might not be enough. We'll see.
Well, so if you have Rick Scott, and it seems like the president might be behind him via surrogates, and then you have Marco Rubio going to Secretary of State, it seems like Trump is relying a lot on the Florida delegation. Is this the result of personal relationships? Has he gotten to know these guys over the years? It seems like Florida Republican leadership is going to have a serious role in this administration.
Well, Donald Trump is a Floridian, don't forget, at least on paper. So, yeah, he has gotten to know them for a while. And look, he was one time a rival of Marco Rubio, as we all remember, Lil Marco and small hands and all that nonsense. So, they didn't always see eye to eye. But Marco Rubio has been on the trail these past few months on the stump, aggressively trying to support Donald Trump. So he's put in his time. Michael Waltz, the first Green Beret to become a national security advisor. He's been a vocal supporter, always on Fox News, supporting Donald Trump. So he's been visible out there. So again, no surprises here. These are the people who've been part of the wing supporting Donald Trump all along.
Talking with Rory O'Neill, he's a national correspondent for NBC Radio, about the administration that Trump's building around him. Now, I do want to go back to the Senate real quick. Tom Cotton, initially looked at as possibly having a role within the administration, has decided to remain a senator. Do you have any insight into what happened there?
Well, right. There was some talk of making him defense secretary, but now it looks like he will become the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee if he stays, with Rubio leaving, because that would have been Rubio's job. But now if he's out, Cotton will take over. So Cotton will have a very powerful position in the U.S. Senate. So I think maybe he can address more than just defense-related issues while if staying in the Senate. And the Trump job might last 4 years, more likely 2 or 3. So the Senate would be a much longer term gig for him.
Rory O'Neill, NBC National News Correspondent, joining Jeff and Bill live. We're analyzing Trump's cabinet with him as he's putting it together. We've talked about people that are going into the cabinet. Let's talk about people that are not. Reactions to Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo being thrown off the ship. They've been voted off the island as survivor. They got a nice, well, we really like you, but don't send us your application.
Yeah, and Nikki Haley sort of was going along. I mean, look, she had her campaign got about 10 to 15, in some cases 19% of the vote of Republicans who weren't supporters of Donald Trump. So it seemed that was a pretty large contingent. But, Donald Trump likes people who are on his team and vocal about it. And Haley was not. Now, even in these last few months, she was not on the campaign trail for him. She said that she hadn't talked to Trump since June, so she wasn't asked to be on the stump for him. And there was some criticism of that as well. Pompeo's a little bit more surprising, but they had some falling outs back in the day. He was also trying to stump for Donald Trump in recent months leading up to the election. But Haley is probably the one that's a much more high profile for her decision not to be included in the new administration.
These are only rumors right now, Rory O'Neill, so you do not have to comment on them directly if you do not want to and sully your broadcasting news name. But on the rumor mill, it's a push inside the Trump campaign to isolate Nikki Haley and Pompeo outside the administration to grease the skids for Vance in 4 years. They don't want to have anybody inside the administration that could really take a good shot at knocking Vance from the top of a potential Republican ticket. Your thoughts on that rumor?
Yeah, not a bad chess move, I guess. If you think Vance is going to be the guy in 4 years, that's going to be a fight for that one. So we'll see. But Haley might be her own strong candidate again in 4 years' time. It could, because let's face it, most vice presidents go off into oblivion. So it's really the challenge for Vance to make something of it and make a name for it for the next 4 years.
Talking with Rory O'Neill, NBC national correspondent. Now, speaking of former vice presidents, does Mike Pence, from your perspective, have any role in shaping the Republican Party conservative movement moving forward?
I don't think so. I mean, and the same as Kamala Harris, I don't think she's going to be around in Democratic politics anymore either. Thank you. Next.
That's down the trail of Dan Quayle, apparently, right?
Golf game.
Rory O'Neill, NBC national correspondent, really appreciate your time today. Thanks for giving us an update. A lot to watch, even after the election. Big decisions being made, and you provided some great analysis. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
So,
That's interesting. I do think there's a play where they're putting Haley and Pompeo on the outside, so they don't have
100%
experience. Yeah,
because you will have the return of the neocons.
Oh yeah,
because they want to have a role and they don't want to just be isolated to the Democrat Party at this point.
Yeah,
it's a losing party, so you will have this effort to try to bring the Republican Party back into that. A lot of it will come down to Trump's leadership over the next 4 years as to whether or not that can even be an argument made within Republican circles.
Yep.
If he's able to keep peace, we don't get into these forever wars. We're not spending a lot of money in places like Ukraine. If he can keep peace, that's the big thing, the big question. But that was a Wall Street Journal opinion piece yesterday, that this was all done to keep J.D. Vance centered. And it shows you a number of things. One of the big ones is that Donald Trump is going to listen to Donald Trump Jr. and Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson with regards to his administration. They're going to have a voice. And they guided him to pick J.D. Vance. I think it was a great pick. I think it helped him win.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that it helped him win. I think it was more detrimental to him. But the Democrats messed things up so badly. It wasn't necessarily something that impacted him long term, because early on it was really bad for him. It was really, really bad as far as the view of J.D. Vance. And I don't think that J.D. Vance necessarily, I don't know what his positive, negative rating is right now, but I haven't seen him very positive at all. So I'm not convinced that it's necessarily
when they
positive.
were able, he became this attack dog. They were able to just push out. So, I mean, just think of the juxtaposition to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz not really doing much media, especially hostile media.
I would
and
disagree
then
with that.
J.D. Vance going right at the most hostile media outlets. I thought it was brilliant.
I would disagree, because I disagree with the idea that Kamala and Walz didn't do a lot of media. They did do a lot of media. They were on a lot of different places. They were on podcasts, and Donald Trump, again, was in mostly friendly spaces, and so was Kamala, and so were Harris, and that was somewhat of a mistake. J.D. Vance did stretch out some, but not at the level. I mean, he wasn't on MSNBC every day.
He was the most out there of all four of them.
Yeah, but then I think that as a surrogate, the Kamala Harris campaign sent Buttigieg out, and he would appear on Fox News and stuff about as often as J.D. Vance appeared on the other side. So again, but I'm not certain that J.D. Vance persuaded a ton of people. I think he absolutely galvanized people behind Trump as far as, oh, look, he does exactly what we wanted to. But I question how many people J.D. Vance actually persuaded. Again, but we talked about this beforehand. Vice president most times doesn't mean anything as far as the choice of the ticket.
Yeah, but that debate with him and Tim Walz, though, was a very interesting moment during the entire season, because you also have to think about who else. Right, exactly. Like who else they could have put up there, right? That actually became a moment of almost pressure release out of the campaign, because you saw two guys that generally were debating policy. It's almost kind of like our show today, without killing each other, where you can have those types of conversations. Go, well, you made a good point there, or I'm actually closer to you on that.
Yeah.
And that happened. I'm not sure that would have happened with a Kristi Noem. I'm not sure. I think it probably could have happened with a Tulsi Gabbard. She's that good.
I think with a Nikki Haley, it could have. Yeah.
Yeah, Nikki Haley. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think she could have. I think Pompeo could have gotten there.
I think Pete on the other side could have done that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But none of the squad members, none of the AOCs.
And what's his name? Shapiro out of Pennsylvania probably as well. Probably could have. He could have done that. Yeah. But no, AOC squad, no. They couldn't have handled that. There's no way. Yeah, there's no way. But you know what I can handle now? I got to tell you about. I had an amazing thing happen over the weekend. I can handle shoveling snow, and this is life-changing for me. I have a really bad back and a broken shoulder, bad knees, all years and years of making poor decisions on what I should be doing with my body. I had an underdeveloped sense of fear, as my father always pointed out. But you know, all that snow that we got Friday to Saturday, I had 2 feet at my house. I went out Saturday, shoveled the driveway, shoveled the walk. We're on a corner, long walk. Then went across the street, shoveled another driveway, shoveled another walk, and my back felt fine. That is crazy. And it's all because of my friends at Balance Wellspace. Check them out, balancewellspace.com. The difference is integrative medicine. That was a brand new term for me. And what it means for you is you get a whole bunch of different treatments under one roof. You go visit Balance Wellspace in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2, and they have neuropathic care, physical rehabilitation, regenerative care, trigger point injections, wave therapy, chiropractic care, and more. A whole bunch of cutting-edge Star Trek type stuff that is all non-invasive, that just has to be seen and experienced to be believed. But what I'm here to tell you is I had my two bottom vertebrae in my back were fusing. Because of Balance Wellspace, we did some traction. We pulled them apart, and now I am regenerating the disc. I now have movement. My sciatica is gone. My fat butt was out shoveling snow for several hours on a Saturday, and I wasn't sore. The craziest part is waking up the next day. You know how that is. That next day, after you've really worked those muscles, you've done something you probably shouldn't have. You get up the next day, and it's stiff. It's like, oh, yeah, buddy, you think you're getting away from this? No. And you're shuffling around looking like you're 50 years older than you are right now for a while. Yeah. I woke up the next day. I could feel that I had done something. There wasn't any tightness. There was no twinge, and there was no numbness. This is crazy. And it's all because of my friends, Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, and the entire team at Balance Wellspace. And also, as we're talking here, I'm regenerating the meniscus in my bum left knee. My left knee held up fantastic over the snow shoveling and didn't even hurt the day after either. That's the difference Balance Wellspace can make in your life. They can get you back to doing things you want to do, and even getting back to doing the things you don't want to do, like shoveling snow, but doing it without pain. Yeah. So you got to reach out to them. Balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. Brand new offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2, and plenty of parking. I'm swinging by there after the show to see them today. They're going to be doing an adjustment on my back to make sure my lower back is holding up just fine for our next snowstorm. And they're going to take a look at my bum knee as well. I'll tell you how it's happening and what's going on with me tomorrow. But I'm going to be there today. And I want you to make a change in your life by reaching out to them, doing the personal evaluation. They'll take the pictures and they'll put together a custom pain plan. The coolest thing, they come back and they reevaluate you every couple of weeks. I've gotten to where I want to be, and we're still checking in every so often to make sure I'm still going forward on my journey. That's how good they are. They can make the same change in your life they've made in mine, but you have to take the first step. Contact them, balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. And please tell me you heard about them here on the Jeff and Bill Show, because it sure helps us out, and they like hearing from you.
Great to hear that, Bill. We'll continue with your calls and texts. What do you think about this team that Donald Trump's putting together? Are you thrilled? Are you excited? Is there anybody in there that you go, they might be used for something else? Not sure about that appointment.
Oh, and who would you add?
And who would you add?
Who would you want to add? Who would you think would be better? That'd be cool.
I would love to see John Fabricatori somewhere in the Thomas Homan operation.
Yeah, I think that would be really, really smart.
I think that needs to take place.
That would be really smart.
And Jason Crow can just continue to attend his minority standing cocktail parties in Washington, D.C.
They get mad over language because it's words that hurt the most.
All right. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Ohio in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Attorney General Ken Paxton just filed his 100th lawsuit against the Biden-Harris administration, this time in an effort to block a new rule by the Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC, that he says arbitrarily limits states' rights and unlawfully burdens taxpayers. 2 months ago, the FCC issued a rule concerning federal prisoners' phone calls, preempting state laws and forcing taxpayers to assume increased cost for these communications. The rule arbitrarily and capriciously violates the Administrative Procedures Act, he said. The Texas Attorney General has sued the Biden-Harris administration for repeatedly violating the Constitution, trying to destroy the nation with open border policies, attempting to take down the oil and gas industry, and illegally using taxpayer dollars to censor American citizens. Most recently, Paxton blocked the Biden-Harris administration's unconstitutional parole-in-place policy that would have unlawfully provided amnesty to more than 1 million illegal migrants. A former drugstore worker in the small Indiana town of Delphi has been convicted of murder in the 2017 killings of 2 girls who vanished during an afternoon hike. Richard Allen was accused of cutting the throats of 13-year-old Abigail Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German. Allen faces up to 130 years in prison. Evidence included a recording of Allen telling his wife, "I did it." In Dallas, Christina Ohio, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking about the team that Donald Trump's building to go to battle with the deep state against the enemies, foreign and domestic. Susan Wiles, White House Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff, Thomas Homan, Border Czar, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor, Elise Stefanik, UN Ambassador. I've known Elise since she started her career. She is great. Lee Zeldin, EPA, Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, possibly Kash Patel for CIA Director. Out. Mike Pompeo, Nikki Haley, So how do you feel about all this? We're taking your phone calls and texts. Let's go to John, Denver. Good morning, John. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Good morning. I like your show. I watched Hannity last night with Tom Holman. This deportation is going to cost a lot of money, and where's it coming from? What about these corporations that not only hired them, but went to Mexico and recruited them to come here? Shouldn't they be liable to help relocate these people?
They should be fined, absolutely, if they're employing illegal immigrants. Look, I've worked for big organizations, and the one thing they fear is doing something wrong via the government. They hire entire entities to help them manage whatever regulations are coming down from the government. I think part of Trump's deportation success, at least I hope, is going to be pressure on some of these major corporations that may be employing illegal immigrants. I think they'll stop doing it, and people are not going to find work here, and they're going to go back home.
Well, I agree 100%, and people talk about it, but they never do anything about it.
Now, welcome
the
to our government.
House, International Beef Products in Iowa. It was in Time magazine back in the 80s, I think. Not only did they go outside the country and recruit, they even built living places for them to come here.
Look, and I'm not opposed to migrants working and coming to the United States for a certain time period. That's the way it used to be. All through the 50s and 60s, they'd come up from Mexico, they'd work here, they'd go back down to Mexico, they stayed down there for other parts of the year. But what happened was we started providing services like in the city of Denver to 40,000 illegal immigrants to the tune of $100 million, to where they're getting apartments, they're getting debit cards, they're getting their own lawyers, they're getting workforce training, all this stuff. Why would they go home? So I've never had a problem with the idea of temporary migrants coming in to serve in the agricultural components, but we've created a system where that, frankly, I wouldn't want to go home either.
Well, a lot of these corporations, it was in Time magazines. Come on, it's cheap labor. That's what people want.
Yeah, it is. And you're right, it's cheap labor. They want it in the farms, they want it in construction. Yeah, you're right.
They kicked the union out. Packing houses for a while was paying good money. You know, I worked in one for a while. They paid good money for a working still. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, but we don't like unions anymore and think they're horrible. So, yeah.
But to kick the unions out, and it was in Time magazine, the people were mad. They were turning cars over in the parking lot and everything. But they all lost their jobs, and the migrants came in and cheap labor. And the taxpayers pay for it.
Yeah,
because
and that's
how can you live on $9 an hour? Well, you get free housing, you get this, you get that. And these poor migrants probably still aren't exactly getting a good deal like it used to be when people worked in a packing house and there was a union, and they could buy houses, they could buy cars, they could buy motorcycles, they could drink a lot of beer.
Yeah, see, John, what I don't understand is that with our immigration system, we used to, as you talked about it, having those migrant visas that were allowed to come in and work in a specific industry for a limited amount of time and then go home, because I am unconvinced that the people that are coming here and trying to claim asylum or coming in and sneaking into the country illegally, that they really, really would like to make this their permanent home, given the choice to be able to go back home. And I think there are many of them, as we see the transfers of money that take place going back to their home countries, that is part of the motivator, that they can make more money here, even if it is well under what we would consider minimum wage. It's more than what they can make at home. And back in the day, the motivator was to come here, make a giant pile of cash, and then go home and celebrate with your family. We have cut out that back end, which also was self-deportation. The people that were here would then go home afterwards. But we've decided we don't like that anymore. And now we're stuck with this. And then we're looking around going, how come all these people are staying here? We changed the rules and we made it do that. So we shouldn't be surprised about it. And the economic impact, you're right, John, and thank you so much for the call, on what's going on is going to be significant if we continue with these deportations. And we can see something like they're talking about somewhere in Florida and some places in California. You could see a contraction of 5% or greater in the labor market, in construction and other areas, and agriculture. That's significant. That's going to make it more expensive to pull the stuff out of the ground, and it's going to make it more expensive to build houses at a time in which housing costs are rising rapidly. So I wonder how we're going to balance this out economically. I wonder what's going to happen.
We'll have to see. Let's go to phones. Jim, Denver. Good morning, Jim. You're on the Jeff and Bill show. Actually, we're up against a break, Billy. I didn't even see that.
We are. Hey, Jim,
and
hang
I want
on.
to respect Jim's time.
Yeah,
so,
we don't want to make it short on that.
Jim, we'll get to you. Stick around. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Give us a call.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We got callers calling in, text messages lining up. Let's go to the phone lines. Jim Denver, good morning.
Hey, morning, Jim.
Hi, Jeff. How are you doing?
Great. Donald Trump's
Jeff, I was
going to be the president of the United States. I'm excited. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was listening earlier this morning, and I was kind of astonished when you said you thought Trump would want to give up some of his war-making prerogatives back to Congress. I just think it's, Donald Trump has always wanted, I think he wants to run the country like he ran his business. And he's always spoken enviously of the dictators he's got to deal with. He says, look at these guys. When they want something done, bam, it gets done.
Yeah,
and
but he also appointed Neil Gorsuch and the Supreme Court majority that got rid of the Chevron doctrine and essentially weakened the executive to points that haven't been seen in decades.
Well, yeah, he may have gotten rid of that, but his intention, I think, was Roe v. Wade when he put Gorsuch on the bench. And it had nothing to do with the Chevron thing.
I mean, look, in his books, that was Gorsuch's big issue. If you go back and read Gorsuch's books, the Chevron doctrine, which allowed for executive rulemaking outside of the legislative body, was his big passion for most of his career, wrote decisions about it. So I understand your point that there are elements out there that Donald Trump wants to run the government like a business. I do think that's the case, but he also has examples where he has great frustration with the deep state, the role of the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Justice, and I could see him actively working to take away their power, which is power that exists within the executive branch.
Yeah, but it's not his power. I mean, the CIA's power is not his power.
Oh gosh, well then who's in charge of that? If not a duly elected chief executive is not running the CIA, then who is?
Well, he's often suspected that they were working against him in ways that possibly he could not prove. But as a practical matter, Jeff, remember when Donald first got in his first administration, he got into a head-to-head with, I think it's Kim Jong-un.
Right.
And what he said, I got a red button that's a lot bigger than yours. And if you think you're going to threaten the United States, if you threaten the United States, you're going to find devastation and fire rain down upon you like the history of the world has never seen. And I think that that's a huge stick that when he negotiates with Putin, when he negotiates with Xi or Kim Jong-un, that he doesn't want to give up the idea that I can do it on my own. You don't forget about the Congress. I'm not going to have to go to the Congress to rain down fire like you've never seen. I can do it on my own.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I do think there's an element around him, though, that is sympathetic to that argument from Rand Paul, the audio we played earlier, that doesn't like the fact we got into these forever wars. And you can make the argument, well, Congress approved some of these, but man, the idea of the U.S. running out there under this kind of neocon war hawk umbrella and getting us into these problems internationally, I think it's time to slow down and take a look. Maybe we should give this power back to Congress.
I agree with you, Jeff, that Donald Trump, opposes those wars and that interventionism, and that he's definitely more isolationist. But I think even though he's isolationist, I think it's a different issue as to where the power resides, as to when to use American power.
Yeah, Jim, that's a great point. Really appreciate the call.
Thanks, man.
And we're going to have to see how this all plays up. And I appreciate Jim making that distinction, right?
Yeah.
That Trump, yes, is not wanting to go get stuck in these forever wars.
Yeah.
But is he willing to give up the power?
Yeah, and I think Jim's 110% right. That he doesn't want to give up the power, but he's not going to go start wars.
Of the executive, and that he just does not like them having too much power. So we'll have to see. We'll continue this conversation. Plus, we'll get into what's happening to Jews in Europe. It's wild. Plus, the deadliest year for police shooting in Colorado. since 2020, you're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, November 12th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up and off and running the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So give us a call. Denver phone lines are open 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line at 720-819-5115. 720-819-5115. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, leading article in the Denver Post yesterday. Colorado on track to see the deadliest year for police shootings since 2020, data shows. So far this year, 36 Coloradans have been killed by police and another 20 have been injured. What is behind all this? Is it the rise of crime in our communities? Well, our Democrat leaders are saying, no, that's not happening. The crime rate's not going up when, yes, It actually is in some cases. We're dealing with being one of the least safe states in the nation. Is it have to do with our hiring? Did we force out good cops with this defund the police nonsense and these lawsuits against them? And I understand we have some bad cops that need to be held accountable. Believe me, I've met some of them in my time. But a vast majority are great police officers. And honestly, if I had a family member come to me and say they want to be a cop, I'd be like, well, we need to have a very serious conversation about liability, and the fact that if you make a bad decision, these DAs, some of them are out to crucify you. And is that a career you want to go into? So in light of that, the city of Denver putting on its ballot, referred question 2T, shall the charter of the city and county of Denver be amended to remove the requirement that police officers and firefighters be United States citizens? Basically, can non-legal citizens become cops and firefighters? It's a yes vote at this moment, a week removed, by 4,000 votes, 165 to 161,000 votes. So it's going to win.
Yeah, it'll win.
And so are we just going to see, because we've decimated the ranks of our police officers, more and more police shootings because maybe they don't know what to do in these situations? They're the most highly trained, qualified people to be cops, especially since we're now opening it up to non-citizens.
Well, don't they go through training though? I mean, isn't there a training?
Training's one thing, intelligence is another thing.
I know, but isn't that kind of the problem with the recruitment right now? We're not meeting recruitment numbers, so you got to do something about it. And so this is another group of individuals that you could recruit, but you can't assume that because they came in the country either through asylum or illegally, they're incompetent. That's an assumption you can't make about any of those individuals. And so the idea of an assumption of incompetence, I don't agree with. We can talk
I think there's some evidence out there that we're not getting the best cops, and we have put ourselves, our elected officials have put us in this situation. So we'll get into this. As you can see, the debate's brewing with Bill and I. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. First, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. Good Tuesday morning, Jeff and Billy. 31 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 58 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast. Coming up, our top story, DJT's administration is taking shape. He has reportedly chosen South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to be his Department of Homeland Security secretary. Other picks include Florida Senator Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State and former ICE Director Tom Homan, of course, as his new border czar. Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo not invited to the party this time. Rory O'Neill, NBC News, joined Jeff and Billy last hour.
Her campaign got about 10 to 15, some cases 19% of the vote of Republicans who weren't supporters of Donald Trump. So it seemed that was a pretty large contingent, but Donald Trump likes people who are on his team and vocal about it, and Haley was not. Now, even in these last few months, she was not on the campaign trail for him. She said that she hadn't talked to Trump since June, so she wasn't asked to be on the stump for him. And there was some criticism of that as well. Pompeo is a little bit more surprising, but they had some falling outs back in the day. He was also trying to stump for Donald Trump in recent months leading up to the election. But Haley is probably the one that's a much more high profile for her decision not to be included in the new administration.
And Kash Patel has been exposing the fraud in the deep state and the intelligence community, has the experience and wants transparency, like the truth of Strzok and Page and the dirt that they were involved in. Reportedly, he may lead the CIA or FBI.
They broke the law. They broke the chain of command. They broke every regulation there is in the FBI. They weaponized the system of justice against a political target they hated. We found those text messages and we got them declassified finally in full when I became Deputy Director of National Intelligence. And the world has now seen them and they can read them. And that's the best form of transparency. That's why I want this 24/7 declassification office. Don't have me regurgitate it to you. Read it. Get the documents, get the files, get the memos. But the deep state came full circle and gave these guys a payday for rigging a presidential election and breaking the law. So now you know what happens. That's step one. Step two, get America the truth.
Amen to that. Colorado is remembering Golden police officer Evan Dunn, who was struck and killed by a vehicle last week.
Here's a young man that's been taken from us way too soon.
That's Tom Hoffman, a veteran in Golden, who stopped by to pay his respects Monday at the memorial set up outside the department. The memorial service for Officer Dunn will be held tomorrow. Governor Polis has ordered all flags to fly half-staff Wednesday to honor Dunn. Residents are invited to line the street at 10 in the morning ahead of the memorial. The private memorial service will be held at Mission Hills Church in Littleton at 1 o'clock. Dunn was 33 years old. Wildfires on both coasts are raging. The nearly 21,000-acre mountain fire in California's Ventura County has destroyed nearly 200 structures and injured 6 people. Meanwhile, forest rangers continue to be extremely busy dealing with a number of wildfires near the New York-New Jersey border. Multiple airlines are halting flights to Haiti after 2 planes were hit by gunfire on Monday. One was a Spirit Airlines flight flying in from Fort Lauderdale that had to be diverted to an airport in the Dominican Republic, where it safely landed. Spirit, American Airlines, and JetBlue have all suspended flights to Haiti. Hey, when Trump takes office, teachers and employees at schools won't be able to tell a child, hey, you know what? Maybe you're the wrong gender.
No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Last night, Avalanche over the Preds 3-2. Dolphins over the Rams. Monday Night Football 23-15. 29 in Brighton, 30 in Lakewood, 31 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It's Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It'll be a quiet day along the Front Range. A quick-moving front, though, may impact us a little bit tonight and early tomorrow. Highs will be 50s, partly cloudy with increasing clouds as the day wears on. Tonight, mostly cloudy. There is a small chance tonight for a few snow showers as the front zips through, lows upper 20s. Cooler behind the front, upper 40s and low 50s, but sunny Wednesday, upper 50s Thursday and Friday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. This article from the Denver Post: Colorado on track to see deadliest year for police shootings since 2020. Nearly 60 people have been shot or killed by state law enforcement so far this year. This time last year, 34 people have been killed by police officers and sheriff deputies across Colorado. 19 others have been injured. According to a data set compiled by the Denver Post, police have fatally shot 36 people this year and injured another 20. According to the data set, now Colorado is only 8 police shootings away from passing last year's total entirely. If those 8 shootings are fatal, it will mark the deadliest year for Colorado since 2020, when police shot and killed at least 43 people, according to Mapping Police Violence. The national project tracks fatal police shootings across the country. Now, if you remember in 2020, this was like a big deal. You had the George Floyd movement, you had Black Lives Matter, you had defund the police. It was, we are going to take on systemic racism within our police ranks, and a lot of pressure was put upon police. I've talked to law enforcement since then, many guys just saying we're putting in our years to get our retirement pension, then we're out of here. It's terrible. I've talked to DPD recruiters who have said our recruitment numbers are way down. So you have a very serious question as to whether or not that whole movement made things better or worse. I remember there was a CU study at one point too that said violence within Black communities has gone up because of these defund the police movements. So it actually got worse for innocent people in urban communities as a result of what the left did to the police. Then last week, passing in Denver, referred question 2T, shall the charter of the city and county of Denver be amended to remove the requirement that police officers and firefighters be United States citizens? So we go down this defund the police effort. The left makes this argument that there's systemic racism within our police ranks. We demonize our police. You end up with more innocent people in urban communities suffering. Police can't make their recruitment numbers. You have a Denver's mayor's county cutting funding from police in order to feed his little illegal immigration project, cut $10 million there. So now are they at a place where they're trying to get non-citizens to serve as police officers? Are we going down this path of just continuing to ruin our communities because of these progressive ideologies? Gabe has a text message here. As Denver and D.A.C.A hires illegals, I can see crime going down as the drug gangs plant their people in the ranks. We'll get more drugs and sex trafficking, but maybe the bus will go down. I'd love to hear from you. Is Denver on a track record of continued failure because of these progressive ideas? And was the election last week just a continuation of these? Let's go to the phone lines. Francis, Denver, good morning.
Morning.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Hey, I don't like the idea of having a foreign national becoming a law enforcement officer. I'm less worried about it being a firefighter, just because these people have the ability to restrict movement, limit ability to exercise liberties that are given to citizens. And so I don't like this idea. My concern is is this just the reality now? Is that, can we not fill posts? Are these people filling jobs that Americans just won't do anymore? Is that what we're talking about? And it's just migrated from working in fields and working in slaughterhouses to working in law enforcement? It's pretty tragic, really. Can you imagine a non-citizen popping some veteran after a long night at the VFW for a Dewey? I don't know if that would go down well. I mean, I just don't. I think that's going to run into a lot of problems.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Francis, you bring up great points. When we hand somebody a badge, we are deputizing them and giving them the force of government to restrict people's rights to benefit the safety of the common good, right? That's essentially what happens when somebody becomes a police officer. You're given a tremendous amount of power. But Francis, I'm not that old. And I remember 2020 when it was all about the failure of training, the systemic problems we have within our police departments. And the result was not, we need to put more money into our police officers. We need to go out there and recruit the very best. We need to be on the best college campuses going, this is a great career for you and your family. It was the exact opposite. The progressives, led by George Soros funded DAs, in this country, went after the police. They sought to defund the police. They raised money to get these rioters out of prison, these kind of bail operations that were taking place. You had the reduction in penalties that took place with DAs all across. They went the exact opposite. And I've heard from police officers after police officers that are like, this job is not worth it. I'm going to end up in prison. I could lose my family. If I had my son come to me, Francis, I'm being perfectly honest. If my son came to me and said, I want to be a cop, we'd have a very serious conversation about it. Not because I don't trust him. It's because I don't trust the system. And now the answer is not, well, let's go out there and try to fix these problems. The solution from all these wackos is to put illegal non-citizens in to be police officers. Give me a break.
You know what bothers me so much about the approach that they took towards the police is that it's a fundamental recognition or lack of recognition for what the police are. They're paramilitary. and you have to give them the ability to act in a paramilitary fashion, or else they cannot do their jobs. And instead, we kind of want to turn them into almost some form of social worker or a social worker with a badge and a gun. And it doesn't work that way. That's not their job. And I cannot, my big concern is that, honestly, yeah, I would have a serious talk with my son if he wanted to be a cop for all of these same reasons, is that what society has basically done to the police is like, bid thee make bricks without straw. I mean, that's what they're having them do. And so, you can't do your job if you just neuter them. It's not how it works. That's not the job description. I don't know. It is frightening. I get the idea of maybe I've always thought that an answer in part to illegal immigrants in the country, rather than the lack of reality in saying deport them, is to allow them to perhaps find a path to citizenship through military service. And maybe some sort of paramilitary service isn't such a bad idea if they're properly trained and given the ability to do what they can do. I just don't, I don't think that because of immigration status, they're not able to perform this job. They're able to perform this job. It's a matter of whether or not we're giving them tools to perform this job. That's the fundamental problem.
Now, this is interesting, Francis, because of what you were talking about, the path to citizenship through the military, but you're more reticent to give him the path to citizenship through the police officers and serving as law enforcement. This may be unfair, but are you saying that your decision-making process just comes down to who they're pointing the guns at?
Yes, that's just reality again. This is just dealing in reality.
Now, here's the thing, Francis. Do we think? Now, the question I've got is, and I appreciate the honesty there about the idea that you're okay with them pointing the guns at people that are outside our country, but you're not okay with them pointing the guns to people inside our country. Tell me why or what you believe is the difference in the decision-making process. Because if you believe they can be trained and they can fulfill a role in our U.S. military, why could they not be trained and fulfill a role inside of our police officers?
Okay, let me dissect it just a little bit here, Bill. Is that I think they can be on both accounts. I don't think that that's a problem. It's not a barrier of can they. It's a barrier of should they. And here's why. I also deal in reality with what the military is there for. And the military's primary purpose is to break things and kill people when necessary. They're not social workers with a rank. And so I have no problem with an illegal immigrant finding a pathway to citizenship in that role against non-citizens that are our enemy. I have a huge problem with it, I guess marginally huge problem with it, when they're pointing guns or doing paramilitary activities against citizens in the country. Okay, so it's a different environment.
I totally agree. And this is what I find interesting based on your conclusion, that you're okay with the U.S. training migrants, legal or illegal, to be trained killers, but you're not okay with them being trained to be law enforcement officers that may contain some social work. That is, to me, a weird juxtaposition, because if I was looking at what I want our immigrants and potential asylum seekers and people, if I want them to have a path forward inside of our country, I would say the skills they get from law enforcement are going to be better cross-applied than the skills they will get if we put them into the military. If we're just teaching them how to kill things and break stuff, I'm not certain that leads us necessarily to a path to assume they're going to be better citizens here.
But Bill, you don't see any major difference between them pointing guns at non-citizens and pointing guns at citizens?
No, but what I'm talking about is with Francis. He was okay with them in the military pointing guns at non-citizens, and we're okay with them and we're not okay with them pointing guns at citizens. So what we've done is we've said, well, obviously they can make the right choice with the gun. We're just mad about where we're going to let them make that choice. I just think that, and that's okay to make that decision. I think Francis is perfectly fair intellectually to make that decision. I just question it rationally, the idea that, well, it's okay if we're shooting people that aren't citizens. They could make a bad decision there, but we're so concerned here. If we think they can make the good decision as a military member, they should also be able to make a good decision as a law enforcement member. And that goes for both an American citizen and a non-citizen.
I also think you have to take into your equation, Bill, there's a very big cultural learning difference when you're put into the military versus when you become a police officer. Yes, you go to police training academy and all that stuff, but the Army or any military branch fundamentally breaks you down as a person, and over the course of at least 6 weeks rebuilds you as a soldier. That's just different than what you do when you go through a police academy training.
We do have the ability to change the training as well for non-citizen trainees for the police as well. We can make that decision.
Can I offer this as well?
Yeah, please.
Well, first of all, Billy, I'm nothing if not intellectually honest. I am.
You are, man. That's why I love you, man. That's why I love when I see you light up the phone lines.
But I want to point out that I think the Romans and I think the French, when they were at the height of empire, had these same questions and took the same path with what they did with their what would I guess be a parallel to illegal immigrants. I mean, hence the French Foreign Legion, hence all of the various inscripted non-citizens in the Roman military. I think that it's just, my whole thing is that, look, just remove the veil of trying to make something that isn't. The first step in being able to answer any of these problems is to address exactly what these jobs require and what we're asking people to fill. And right now, especially with the police, we're in a la-la land. I mean, we're not anywhere near what this job requires and what we need people to do to fulfill their position. And it's sad. It really is.
No, and that's part of my frustration on this too, is like, literally that's your solution. We have all these problems that our police officers are facing. You have rogue DAs, you have efforts to defund the police. We put so much pressure on them. We're not raising healthy families. So you have kids out there creating problems. And the solution coming from the Democrat leadership of the city of Denver is not to address those, but to remove the requirement that police officers be United States citizens. Oh my gosh. It's just, it gets me. So Francis, really great call. Always glad to hear from you, my friend. Thanks so much for the phone call. Phone lines are open. Francis's line is open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Did you know that last year, over 49% of homes listed did not sell with the real estate agent who took the initial listings? This cost home sellers thousands of dollars in lower offers and painful holding costs. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams have a track record of selling homes fast and get their home sellers 6.1% more money on average, netting their sellers $30,500 more in their pocket. They do this using their proven proprietary systems and guarantees. Go with the team that doesn't just make empty promises, but can actually provide proof of their experience and track record of getting homes sold for top dollar. Maybe you're someone that's ready to get out of Colorado with all this Blue Island nonsense. Maybe you're somebody that wants to move to Colorado. Maybe it's time to upgrade the home or downgrade. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team is so confident in their service they provide and the results that they can get you that if you're not happy, you can cancel at any time, no cost to you. This is their cancellation promise. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or visit gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. President Donald Trump has released his plan to clean up colleges and universities across the nation, saying the time of indoctrination is over, and if they have a problem with it, they can say goodbye to federal funding. Watch.
The time has come to reclaim our once great education.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We've got full phone lines as we're talking Denver, Colorado. Based on hot problems, Colorado on track to be the deadliest year for police shootings since 2020. I raised this question because all the reform efforts following 2020, BLM, defund the police, taking away qualified immunity, all of that stuff was an effort to reform our police. Okay. Well, I have one metric here that shows that police shootings aren't going down. In fact, they may surpass 2020. And then I talk to my friends who are, I go to these back the blue events because I love our law enforcement. I'm so grateful for who they are. And I talk to recruiters for DPD and others who are like, oh, it's bad out there. We're not hitting our numbers. We're lowering the threshold. And my real serious question in all this is, are we doing the right things necessary to get the most qualified people to become police officers? Because everything that the left has done to weaken the blue, in my opinion, have led me to a place where I wouldn't be comfortable putting my own son or daughter into a role as a police officer. We'd have very serious conversations. And it's not because I don't trust them. It's not because I don't respect the profession. It's because I think the forces, particularly the political forces out there run by the progressive left, have made it so bad that it's not a viable career anymore. You could lose your life. You could go to prison. You could lose your family. You could be prosecuted. My goodness, it seems like you could be crucified at this point by these progressives. And then what does Denver do? Lo and behold, they come along and 165,000 of Denver's voters vote to remove the requirements to become a police officer that you need to be a United States citizen. It just seems like we're just running down crazy trails, not actually solving these problems, and Denver's going to get worse as a result of it. Give me a call. Tell me where I'm wrong. Let's go to the phone lines. Mark, Aurora, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Hi. I just think that you can't take that oath of to swear and defend to uphold and defend the Constitution and not be in immediate conflict. Have to deport yourself. And
that's a good point.
And then, well, where do they go with having a gun? I heard they were going to make an exception so they could have it just at work, but I don't know why the name sticks in my head. But this Alex Woods got a domestic violence charge, and he fought it all the way and could not stay as a police officer because he couldn't have a gun. So why wasn't that exception carved out for him?
I mean, that's what he had done previous, wasn't it, for Alex? And so the domestic violence things. And so if he's pulled as far as his ability to have a gun. And the weird part is Jeff and I, this is really strange, the fact that you bring this up, Mark. Jeff and I just the other day were having conversations behind the scenes about the Constitution and what rights it does grant to people even here in the country illegally. And I believe that the U.S. court has said that the Second Amendment also applies to illegal immigrants. Yeah. So they are allowed to have a gun. They're allowed to possess a firearm.
Huh. I'd heard different, but I guess I really don't know. I've never heard any kind of strong argument either way on that. Just kind of oh no, they can't. And
here's the argument, Mark. Here's the core of the argument that might help you understand. And this is where it really centers around. And again, I'm going to get the details wrong, but the kernel of the argument is really focusing on the idea of due process, saying that if you are in this country illegally, you do not forfeit your right to due process. That means that if we're going to deport all these people, they are allowed a hearing. They're allowed due process, just like if they are accused of, let's say, basic theft. They run into a store and they grab a bunch of stuff and they run out, or they break into your car. They are still allowed due process and have to go through our court system and can be sentenced. We don't get to pull out a gun and just shoot them and go, oh, sorry, it was illegal. It's okay. Capital punishment for shoplifting is okay because they're an illegal. They don't get the same protections under a Constitution. And if they do get the protections of due process under the Constitution, they get all the protections, which does include the Second Amendment. That's the basis of the decision that I understand.
Well, here maybe I've thinking about that a little bit harder here, I think maybe it was actually legal immigrants that it was said they couldn't have a gun. And maybe they somehow were afforded due process. I just haven't checked into it too much. I know of at least one illegal immigrant that has a gun. He's put it on Facebook. So
yeah, and there are a lot of people, and there are a lot of criminals out there that we know shouldn't have guns, and we saw the types of guns the Venezuelan gang members were running around with. Yeah. So even if they're not guaranteed the right to the Second Amendment under the Constitution, as you outlined, Mark, correctly, it doesn't mean they can't get their hands on the guns. So what about this, man? I want to ask you about this. I understand the idea and the difficulty we have with having non-citizens, regardless of immigration status, be police officers. Are you okay with them serving in the military as a path to citizenship? What's your feeling on that?
No,
why not?
I'm not. We got the Simpson bill, and it says for them to become citizens, they have to come into this country legally. They can't do it from within the country. I don't like the idea of military service. We're trained it's exactly like you were saying. We're trained to kill and break things. And that's the last thing we want in our society, is somebody else doing that.
Hey, Mark. Okay, now let me twist this just a little bit, because, you listen to the show, you understand. I'm not doing this based on this is how I believe, but I find the question interesting and based on your response. So again, I'm not throwing rocks at you. I'm just exploring this. This is nothing more than an intellectual exercise between you, myself, Jeff, and our listeners. So what if I made the argument that the reason we should allow those immigrants, legal or otherwise, into the military is because who else shows the fact that they want to be an American citizen so bad that they are willing to put their life on the line? Isn't that the largest and best sacrifice any American can make? And if an illegal immigrant or an asylum seeker or anybody else is willing to also do that and to defend our flag, shouldn't we then welcome them in with open arms? What do you think about that?
Well, I guess I look at it this way. This is going to sound rough.
No, it's okay, man. Go for it.
There's a small percentage of the military that really jumps out in harm's way. And that has, it's typically been rural white guys. And what we're going to get is somebody that's an illegal immigrant. They're going to get in. They're going to either do that and get, great training on how to kill people, but then they're going to leave the military and take a bunch of benefits with them. And if they don't, then we get somebody that's like the projectionist. They can run videos or movies or whatever better than anybody in the world to show combat plans to the rest of the army. And they didn't, I honor the veterans, but they're all a piece of the machinery, but they didn't put their life in harm's way, and they knew they weren't. Not every job in the military is out in front. There's the cyber warfare stuff.
Yeah. And Mark, and you're exactly right. And thank you so much for the call. And I was reminded in that comment that you have right there about two of my professors in college that both served in the military during Vietnam. And one of them saw combat. The other was stationed at a lighthouse in Scotland. And so they always would poke fun at each other. And it was always like, go ask the other professor about how he was defending your freedoms from the lighthouse. So they always go back and forth. And so Mark's got a definite point that not all of them are necessarily seeing combat. Fair point, man. Thanks for the call.
Let's go to Joel Littleton. Good morning, Joel. You're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Hello.
Morning.
I'm going back on years back that the UN or I don't know what administration, but the left wanted the UN to be able to come in and take our guns.
Yeah.
To disarm the American citizens. And now what kind of people are we getting in to take? I'm just afraid they'll lead into taking our guns that way through letting foreigners come in and take our guns.
Yeah, is this another step by progressives towards open borders, one world government? I used to work at the United Nations. I defended persecuted Christians there and would go to the UN in New York and Geneva, and they have a big gun statue outside of the New York United Nations where it's like tied up in a knot. So this notion of the United Nations is going to get rid of all of your guns. I mean, at this point, it looks like it passed. So Denver will be able to tap into non-citizens to become police officers and firefighters. I guess I don't think it's right, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, Joel, that somebody who is not a citizen can remove the rights based upon swearing upon fulfilling the duties and obligations of the Constitution, can remove the rights of a citizen. Like, it just seems like, yeah, to your point, we're kind of back into this global one world order, one border, no border type of thinking.
No, I agree with that. Exactly what you said. I don't like it. I don't approve of it, but obviously I didn't have a say in Denver. I live in Littleton. I would argue it with Littleton, but it's going to end up coming through all the counties through the state, and it's going to chase me out of the state.
I was going to ask you, that was going to be my next question, Joel. What's the point of a conservative staying in Colorado at this point? We're this blue island. Kyle Clark's out there celebrating we're this great blue island. Yesterday, Jared Polis was talking about how we are the number one place for people from Texas to move. And if you looked at the last elections, Texas got redder. So all the progressives and libs are moving out of Texas to Colorado. They're moving out of Kansas to Colorado. They're moving from California to Colorado. We're becoming this kind of crazy progressive state. What's the reason for a conservative to stick around here at this point?
Really, I don't think there is. But after what went on, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, but with leaking passwords, how long did that go on? What did it really do? Colorado is really blue as it appears, or have, call me conspiracy, but is it as blue as they say it is?
Yeah, you got a great point, because we now have four congressional Republicans. Four of four.
But have they been taking away our rights over the years by doing this stuff that we never got caught with?
And Joel, and I did take a look when you're talking about the UN thing. It sparked something in the back of my head, and I jumped on the magic Google box and looked for a sec. If it's the document that I believe you're referencing, that's 2010, 2013-ish, right around in there, talking about the UN and coming in to take guns, that was a farce. It was never anything that was actually proposed by the UN, nor was anything proposed by the US. If it's the one that I'm thinking of, I could be mistaken. There could be something else, but that was not, didn't actually happen, or wasn't actually a legit proposal by anybody in charge. The question I've got for you, though, Joel, real quickly, is if we are talking about people that are immigrants that want to come in and want to be Americans and want to live by what we believe is American society rules and regulations and adopt American culture, what could you imagine being more American than saying, I want to be part of the U.S. military or part of U.S. law enforcement? I would submit to you, Joel, that those are the people that are trying to be the most American. And shouldn't we then allow those immigrants possibly a path to citizenship, since they seem to be embracing the flag? What do you think about that?
No, I agree with what you just said. I'm not arguing that. I think, they do want to become citizens. But what kind of background checks are we doing on them before we allow them to become officers or first responders?
Joel, that's good, man.
Are they going to be the guys with the guns breaking in Aurora? I know it's only 1 or 2 apartment buildings in Aurora, but what kind of people are we getting?
Dude, that is fantastic, Joel. I'm really glad that we can end the conversation there on that, because I think you're 110% right. Because here is the weakness in the idea for what I'm thinking about. If we're talking about illegal immigrants and migrants coming in here and whether or not we want to make them part of the military or part of our law enforcement, is there are countries in which we do not have good relationships with. One of those right now being Venezuela. Oddly, where all the gangs are from. And so when we reach out to Venezuela, Maduro is not honest with us on the backgrounds of any individual. It doesn't matter what we request or what information or what name we send him. They are not either going to respond to us, nor are they going to be honest. So, Joe, you got a great point, man, that we don't know in all situations who these people are. And maybe those signing up and that appear to be the most American or most want to join our country and this great melting pot have other motivations, and we couldn't tell that. Great point, man.
Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Look, for many of us, it's happening. Your hair's thinning. Your crown's disappearing. Maybe hair loss as you feel and your identity is lost altogether. Well, I've got good news for you. It's an incredible yet simple one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day, and it's guaranteed to grow for life. It's the Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. We've all seen the pills, lotions that come with monthly subscriptions. They help retain what you have, but one of what you want is your own natural hair permanently in specific areas. From Advanced Hair's state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Paul's, it's not maybe will your hair regrow. It's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's why Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. For your free consultation, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR, or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines. Ryan Erie. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
We're great. Donald Trump is going to be number 47. What's up?
Fantastic. Well, for sure, I just really wanted to call in and voice my thought on the idea of having illegals take up positions of authority for other people that are law-abiding. And I just think I find that to be a bit morally hypocritical. If you think about it, you're asking someone to join a force, whether it be the military or the police force, upholding the law when they themselves have actually broken the law to get there in the fight. And for as long as they're engaging in upholding the law, it seems very hypocritical to me that an illegal should not really hold that position. I could definitely see there being an argument, though, for those who are legally here to definitely get a fast track to citizenship for that kind of service. Absolutely. Because from the very get-go, they've already started respecting our laws by not invading the country illegally. But yeah, if anyone here has actually broken the law, I just don't see that as being any measure of moral authority that one could have if they're in the position of upholding it.
Enforce the laws, but maybe not in your own personal case. And it's not exactly clear, because all this amendment says is that it removes the requirement that police officers be United States citizens. So maybe they're in the road, they're on the road in order to becoming United States citizens. Maybe they came here and they're on a green card, all that other stuff. But it doesn't say in the language that illegal immigrants couldn't do this. And if your first action is breaking the law, now we're going to hand you a badge and gun and tell you to go enforce the law. Yeah, not in my book. All right, we'll continue. Really appreciate the call, Ryan. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's featured item.
$50 gift cards from the Butchery Restaurant in Arvada. Get them now for half price.
Get it now at RockyMountainBargains.com for 50% off. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always pay half price. Restrictions apply. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, November 12th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump's about to be your president. Let's get out and get some work done. We've got an entire hour for you planned of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115. Bill, I want to get into this story. There's a great piece in the Free Press. Yeah. By the way, this is one of my favorite newspapers that's come up. It's run by Bari Weiss. You remember she used to be at the New York Times.
Oh, yeah.
But great piece. They got Peggy Noonan, all those folks in there. This is kind of personal to me because I've come to really appreciate the great contributions I think Jews make to this world. They build good societies. They build good families. And the way they've been treated by the radical left on college campuses in America, the way they've been treated in Europe, and you saw those reports of the battles following the soccer games where they were literally like Hunt the Jews. Yeah. Was a face or not Facebook group, a WhatsApp group that they were targeting Jews. And
yeah, now sadly, the Jewish soccer supporters also did some stuff.
Right. Totally innocent. Not totally innocent.
Yeah, some really bad things like chanting F the Arabs and kill the Arabs and things. And so, yeah, it wasn't as if they were just walking down the streets. It doesn't mean they should be attacked over it.
Yes.
Regardless of what someone is chanting and yelling at you, that doesn't mean you get to beat them up. So, yes, the response is way out of bounds, even though what they were saying in the first place, they shouldn't have. But you don't punch somebody because of that.
Well, and taxi cab drivers were like reporting locations of where the Jews were. And so these guys were just getting attacked in Amsterdam. So this raises whole lots of questions for me. There's a great article in there on Make Europe More Jewish Again and how it just benefits these societies to have more Jews around. They're successful people. They build good families. They're rooted in deeply held religious values. And so when a society embraces the Jews, you actually become a very successful society. And when you push them away, well, you end up like what's happening to Europe. So this gets into larger questions about Islamist immigration to Europe and some of the problems they're facing. And I think they need to reprioritize their immigration strategies, not go so much for the Islamists, but go more for the Jews. And what do they need to do to flip and fix their society so they're not pushing all the Jews away, which I think is just detriment to Europe in itself. We'll get to this in just a second. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. That sounds interesting. I'll be listening. 37 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 58 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Senate Republicans will select their new leader tomorrow. South Dakota's John Thune, John Cronyn from Texas, and Florida's Rick Scott, all vying to be the party's leader in the upper chamber. They're looking to replace Kentucky's Mitch McConnell, who's stepping aside as Republican leader. This comes as Congress returns today after a month-long recess. Thune and Cronyn didn't exactly support DJT during his campaign. The Republicans are 3 seats away from keeping control of the House as the vote counting rolls on. A win for the Republicans would give President-elect Trump an easier path to enact his policies now that the Senate will also be under GOP control. A judge is pausing proceedings related to the campaign derailment case led by Judge Mersham. Remember that one? He was set to decide today whether a conviction would be vacated due to the presidential immunity ruling from the Supreme Court in July. DJT was set to be sentenced on November 26th. They weaponized the justice system, but we the people spoke last Tuesday. Trump will name South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem the next Department of Homeland Security Secretary. This comes after reports said that Trump has picked Florida Senator Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State. Trump has already tapped former acting ICE Director Tom Homan to serve as the new border czar. Former Congressman from New York, Lee Zeldin, to lead the Environmental Protection Agency, and New York Representative Elise Stefanik to serve as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Kash Patel reportedly could lead the FBI or the CIA.
What the deep state uses the most to cover up their corruption is an illegal application of the classification system. Remember the Lovebirds text from, this is a beauty, the Lovebirds text from FBI, DOJ land, Russiagate, Strzok and Page were texting each other. They were running the Russiagate investigation against Trump. They were the head of the counterintelligence unit at the FBI, and they're having an extramarital affair together. Can't make this stuff up. They're sending each other texts about how much they hate Trump and are going to create an insurance policy to stop Trump. Then we finally find those text messages. You know what the FBI and DOJ do for like a year? Redact them to congressional investigators and congressional men and women running the oversight.
Hopefully he can clean it all up. Van Jones needs to help clean up the mess left by the Democrats.
Right now, they have everything. They got the Supreme Court, they got the Electoral College, they got the House, they got the Senate, they got the popular vote, and we're just sitting here with the dunce cap on. Last week, we thought we were the smartest people in the world. We thought Donald Trump was an idiot. We thought his campaign made no sense, and it turned out they were smarter than us. And we don't have anything to say. I can sit here and pretend I know something. Here's what I know. Everybody I know is miserable. Everybody's on these Zoom calls. Nobody's got any good ideas. And
I heard that. Well said, Van Jones. Officials are warning of illegal online pharmacies selling counterfeit pills made by fentanyl and meth. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration has issued a safety alert about the increase. It says it found websites in the Dominican Republic and India that claim to be legitimate but are working with drug traffickers. Stocks are opening slightly higher on Wall Street after the major averages notched record closes. An update on the college football playoff rankings will be released tonight. The first iteration saw the top 4 include Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, and Miami. In that order, it's going to change it up tonight, though. Top 12 was rounded out by Texas, Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, BYU, Notre Dame, Alabama, and Boise State. This year marks the first of the 12-team playoff bracket format. The rankings release at 6:30 Denver time tonight. 33 in Lafayette, 35 in Aurora, 37 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It'll be a quiet day along the Front Range. A quick-moving front, though, may impact us a little bit tonight and early tomorrow. Highs will be 50s, partly cloudy with increasing clouds as the day wears on. Tonight, mostly cloudy. There is a small chance tonight for a few snow showers as the front zips through, lows upper 20s. Cooler behind the front, upper 40s, low 50s, but sunny Wednesday, upper 50s Thursday and Friday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I've watched this growing anti-Semitism on college campuses. There were protests on Columbia's campus again against the Jews. And then you saw what happened when the mob rampaged through the streets of Amsterdam, ambushing and assaulting Jews. Now, they're not totally innocent when it comes to the disputes between soccer teams, but that happens. And they said some of the fans of the Jewish team said some inappropriate things, not discounting that. I think it's called Maccabi Tel Aviv is the name of the soccer team.
Yep,
is that right?
Yeah, and they were actually their match was moved out of Turkey recently. They were scheduled to play Besiktas, and because of the highly Muslim population inside of Turkey, the governing body, the federation there, felt that they could not keep the fans safe, nor could they assume that there would not be violence during the game inside of the stands. So they actually have moved it, and I forgot where it's gone, but they've gone to a neutral location outside of Turkey. And that wasn't the last time. I think 2-3 weeks is when they moved that.
And this all happens right around the 86th anniversary of Kristallnacht.
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 Yep.
Victims
the breaking of the glass.
The breaking of the glass that took place throughout Europe. And there's a great article by Matthias Dopfner in the Free Press about how smart civilizations import Jews. Like if you want a successful society, Jewish people are important to it. He writes, this shameful episode is only the latest example of anti-Semitism on Europe's streets. It is a disgraceful consequence of the irresponsible migration policies that is equally receptive to Islamists and Holocaust deniers. Violent incidents have become more common since October 7th, 2023, and the already shrinking population of European Jews is set to decline further as many Jews in the Netherlands, in France, and in his country, Germany, are considering emigrating. The decline in Germany and Europe more generally is greeted with a shrug. Such complacency is shameful, particularly in Germany. The country can never make up for its historical guilt, but it could help ensure that history doesn't repeat itself. Not only should Germany be working to persuade Jews to stay, we should throw open our doors to Jews who want to move here. And he goes on to explain. As the world becomes increasingly anti-Semitic, Germany could attract some of the greatest talent in business, science, the arts, and technology. This would send out a signal against anti-Semitism globally and also be an extremely effective program to boost the well-being and prosperity of Germans. Were Mecklenburg-West Pomerania, a federal state in the east, as large as Israel, it would become a preferred immigration area for Jew migrants. He would wager that within 10 years, it would have some of the best universities, the greatest density of startups, the lowest employment, the highest per capita income in the country. In short, it would become a flourishing landscape. And I read this article and I just go, yeah, like for the health of America, for the health of Western Europe, Jewish populations bring a tremendous amount of value to these communities. I helped market a book called Startup Nation years ago, written by Dan Senior. You see him oftentimes on the news, but it was all about how some of the greatest tech companies are coming out of Israel. Places like, or apps like Waze, for instance, came out of Israel. WhatsApp has come out of Israel. They have such little resources, and yet they produce so much. And when I look at the anti-Semitism happening on college campuses, when I see these attacks that are happening in Europe, and I agree with this author that there's just this kind of shrug that takes place from our leaders. And I think not only to the unfair treatment of Jews that takes place in this, but to the detriment of their own communities. They're making Jews uncomfortable to live in these countries, in America and in Western Europe. And I just think that's wrong. I think they provide a tremendous amount of value. And the question should be not how do we just treat people equally, but how do you create immigration that makes Jews want to come to America and want to come to Western Europe? That's what I got out of that article.
Yeah, it's an interesting premise, and I agree with a lot of what they say. I look at the core of it being the othering of, we talked about this a lot, that the problems that whatever you feel you're facing in society, you point to someone else, you point to another group. It's their fault. They're the ones that are taking what should be mine. They're the ones that are taking my jobs, my wages, my house, my food, the extra support that I could have. Why are these people getting the government support services that I could use for my family? They're the ones that are driving up the cost of X, Y, or Z. And that's where I see this going a lot. And it is unfortunate that some people's politics point them towards the Jewish people as the other, and some people's religion point them to the Jewish people as the other. And for me, the Islamists that we've seen in Amsterdam and the ones that we've seen protest around the country, they are using their religion as an excuse for their anger and hate. It gives them a pass and allows them to do this. Like if we go to Germany, with Germany, it's the far right. It's not liberal Islamists that are coming in. In fact, it's very conservative Islamists, but also very conservative white people that are in there. The far right inside of Germany has gained power recently, and not a lot of it, but enough to make it worrisome. And they've even outlawed language that goes against Jews.
Like Yiddish or something?
No, it's what do they call? No, it's the idea of any hate speech, and they've got real strong hate speech laws about Jews this, Jews that. You can't do that in there, and you'll be charged with it. You've seen attack to the right inside of France as well, as far as Le Pen and what's been going there over the last 8-10 years. For me, the Muslim religion is, the dominant religion. It's the largest on the planet, second with Christianity, and just the sheer numbers, because of the volume, even if it is a very small percentage that have this view, because of the larger number that exist, it's going to be a huge number of people. Yeah, I do think it's a small percentage. And only because, here's the idea, because of how many people believe in Islam around the world, if this really was a goal of theirs, we'd have fights everywhere. We'd have marches everywhere. We would have them taking over countries everywhere. If this really was the goal of what the religion wanted, that we have to absolutely persecute the Jews, yeah, absolutely. You would see that turn. Universally, but I believe it's people like the power brokers in Iran, and again, it's I always forget Sunni Shia. It's the Shia side, I believe, that is the more anti-Jewish than the Sunni side, if I remember my international politics correctly, because Sunni is Saudi Arabia, Shia Iran, I believe, and I could get that backwards because I'm an idiot. But the Iranians, they're the ones that are the Hamas, the Hezbollah. Those are the people that they're going after. And it is the idea that the Jews must be wiped off the planet. But they're using their religion to get them there. That's not the shared view of, in my opinion, the vast majority of those in the Islamic world. They do believe that Islam should be the path and the way forward.
Yeah.
But they're not into the idea that all the Jews around the planet need to die. But there are a large number of them simply because of the size of the religion.
Do you think we're still in this belief in this culture that all cultures are equal? Like, that you can't criticize some cultures out there that's considered bigoted or something like that?
Depends. And I think that's a difficult proposition because it depends on what you talk about criticize.
Yeah.
And you can talk about criticize as far as, but when it becomes denigrate, I think that's the line that you have to be careful and walk.
But can you make immigration decisions? So for instance, can Western Europe and should Western Europe say more Jews, less Islamists?
Okay, how are you? Okay, here's the question though: is how are you defining Islamists? Because I mean, my statement is I think that Jews is different than Islamists. Because for me, and you may be using it this way, and I don't know if you're not all right, so I don't want to assume. But the idea of Islamist being someone that is closer aligned to the viewpoint of Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, rather than just being a follower of Islam.
Yeah. So good question and an important clarification. Somebody that would be comfortable or at least advocates or supports Islam as a force for governing. right?
Oh.
So I want to create little Islamic neighborhoods. I want Islam to be a force in the laws that we write. I want Islam to be like the guy I interviewed at the DNC. He's like, no, this is the one true religion. It rules.
But see, I would put him into the side more of Islamist. I don't view people that...
Yeah, I would put that's an Islamist
but
in my mind.
The thing for me is I don't put someone that is a follower of Islam and that person even getting into our governmental system and saying, I am guided by these principles that I see in Islam, and this is how I'm going to, and this is how I'm going to make these decisions this way.
They're
I don't
still
necessarily
willing to embrace a secular government.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that per se. But when it is just like I have a problem with someone saying that what our shared faith in Christianity teaches has to be dominant and has to supersede what we have in the government. When we get to that, regardless of the religion, I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm super uncomfortable with the idea of any singular religion having to be the lodestone or North Star for a government that supersedes what happens inside of the government. So universally, I disagree
Are you
with that.
opposed, though, with the government looking at its immigration strategy, for instance, and going, well, Jews build really good societies. Look at Israel. It's a great society. They have good families. They tend to be successful in business and in the arts and in education. So we're going to prioritize them.
I'm a little uncomfortable with that, only because for me, it's again that broad generalization. Just like I would never have a broad generalization saying I question everybody that's a follower of Islam. I would need to have more indicators. And the thing that worries me is if we can say, well, the Jews are universally good at X, I think it allows someone else permission to say, well, the Jews are universally bad because of Y. And so that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about that delineation inside of it. However, here's where I'll twist your mind a little bit, and you're not going to like this at all, but you may agree with me. This is the fun part. Okay. So for our listeners, this is the fun part. I can get to a point where I can prioritize Jewish immigration based on what they've experienced in the past, based on past discrimination, based on the fact of the Holocaust, based on a bunch of other things that have been put in their past, and even things they are currently dealing with around the world. I can get to the point of saying, yes, I will prioritize them because of this discrimination and what they faced in the past versus someone in the religion of Islam. I'm okay with that. But that seems like a super lib thing to do.
Well, in many ways, it kind of is because it's the oppressor versus the oppressed type of worldview.
Yeah, that's why I'm not totally comfortable with it, but I can get there.
The bigger reason I want to bring this up is because the kind of woke mind virus that all cultures are the same, I think infected Western Europe. I think it infected some of our immigration policies here. It was the idea of open borders, let anybody in. And you ended up with these essentially like little breakdowns of society that took place where we have TDA, Venezuelan gangs in Aurora, because they're just people. I'm not going to judge you on your culture. I'm not going to judge you on how you got here. You're a human being. Welcome to America. And it created communities that were rejecting the Western civilizational traditions that made America successful. And so this woke mind virus that came into Western Europe said, we're going to bring in massive amounts of Islamists, maybe not all Islamists, but, we have some Muslims that have come into these countries, and now Western United States, or some Islamists that have come into these countries. Not all Muslims are Islamists, but it's created a place where Jews don't feel safe. And I think it was rooted in this belief that all cultures are the same. And they're just not. There are better civilizations than others. And I think you got to give credit where credit is due. You would not have Western civilization if it wasn't for the Jews. You wouldn't have, it is the lead up to the formation of Christianity. There's a lot in common that we share with the Ten Commandments and the formations of our laws, and the foundation of what is Western civilization can be traced back to the Jews. And so I want to move away. The bigger issue I want to move away from is this woke mind virus that all cultures are great. We can immigrate everybody. Everybody's going to find a home here. I think it creates problems. Now, I want to caveat this. I'm not saying that this is the justification for harming civilizations or saying that we need to treat people poorly or anything like that. But there are realities to decisions that are made. And what's happening in Western Europe is, to this article's point, we have just opened the doors to anti-Semites, whether it's on the right, whether it's Islamists. And as a result, you have an increase in anti-Semitism taking place, and the Jews don't feel comfortable. And I think that's going to put Western civilization on the wrong track. Western Europe on the wrong track. Sorry.
Yeah, and I can see that. I disagree with the phrase "the woke mind virus," but I see why you're using that. And I also disagree with the idea that all cultures are created equal. However, the part that makes it difficult for me is I do believe that all cultures are allowed self-determination, and that we would object to how some cultures, and I would even go to things like possibly some of those small Amazonian cultures or things that happen with tribal cultures inside of Africa, and even some things that happen in Central and South America. We may disagree with some of the things culturally that they do. So for me, it's the idea of cultural determination, but I do believe that it is fair inside of the Western countries to judge based on our values. I think that's okay. Now, I can see then it would be fair for me, for Eastern cultures or Muslim cultures, to then judge us based on their values. Yes. And so that seems to be, like a nice give and take. The weird part is, and this is the thing that really I have a hard time with when we talk about the idea of the anti-Semitism, because we do see it on both the left and the right. Right. And I'm not sure this is fair, but I think it's an interesting argument to put on the table at this point. And the idea of, if we go back to the previous Trump administration and the march in Charlottesville, those people, again, I'm not linking Trump to it. Okay. I just want to make that desperately clear.
Yeah. The text messages are about to blow up.
Exactly. I'm not saying he did it. I'm not saying responsible. I'm not even saying that Trump said there were probably fine people on both sides. None of that's right. Okay. So I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, in that group, I didn't see a lot of Muslims.
Oh, that's fair.
And that's the interesting part to me, is the cross section of where the anti-Semitism is, and the very, very, very strange bedfellows that creates. And I think that creates somewhat of a problem for Western cultures as well, because there already are some people inside of their nations that hold those beliefs. And then bringing in more people, whether they be Islamist, and that's not Muslim, but Islamist, as we've outlined, or even someone else, can give flame and fire to that. I looked, just out of curiosity, inside the Netherlands as far as the amount of Jews that were there and the amount of Muslim citizens. I believe Muslim citizens inside somewhere around 5 million-ish, more or less, and about 120,000 Jews. So that's a vast difference. It's a vast difference of what you've got. And so
5 million that's different. To 120,000.
I think that's it. It's either Amsterdam or it's Germany that I was looking at as far as the difference in value. So I can't remember. It was just earlier this morning. I'm going to go back and verify if that was either Amsterdam or Germany. But either way, it shows the difference in the size of the voice that is available in one community versus the other. Yeah. And I think we forget that as well, that many times the Jewish community has the smallest voice simply because they are one of the smallest sets of population. Right. Because we really did some awful things to them over the course of history. Some awful, awful things to them.
The other reason I bring this up is because Trump's going to make immigration determinations.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I see where you're going with this.
And we're going to end up with the quote Muslim ban all over again, and all that stuff that's going to come from the left. And so this is a question I have from our listeners. Does a country have the right to immigrate into its borders whoever it chooses? Can it create a list of going Indians? Yes. Pakistanis? No. Jews? Yes. Islamists? No. Does it have the right to self-determination with regards to whom it allows into its country? We'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line at 720-819-5115, 5115. Want to talk to you about my friends over at QC Kinetics. Did you wake up with joint pain this morning? Maybe you've been shoveling snow and it all hurts as a result of it. Does it hurt when you do even the most routine physical activities? Have they told you it's time for knee or hip replacement surgery? Stop what you're doing and listen to this. You deserve a life of comfort and ease with no surgery and no meds. At QC Kinetics, they can get you there. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative cellular treatments for joint pain. This is an all-natural approach that harnesses your own body's healing properties to treat the root cause of your arthritic pain. Everybody's talking about this now. And it's so cutting edge. Joel here in our office playing more golf than ever. Maybe you want to get skiing this year. Maybe you want to go hunting. These protocols developed by QC Kinetics are life-changing for so many people. Tens of thousands of satisfied patients with more every day. Yes, you can have real lasting relief from chronic joint pain without drugs, without surgery, and without downtime. Discover your options with advanced regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics. The consultation absolutely free. 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986. With locations in Aurora, Superior, Highlands Ranch, and Colorado Springs. Phone lines starting to fill up. We'll get to them. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking an article in the Free Press that makes the argument, look, smart societies import Jews, don't push them out. And Western Europe, with its immigration policies, has been doing the exact wrong thing. It's been pushing Jews away as a result of growing anti-Semitism. America dealing with this problem as well. Jews build good cultures. They invest in the arts. They build good businesses. They build tech startups. They have strong families. And so shouldn't we be importing them? And then that brings up the larger question about what Trump's going to do. Does a country have the right to pick and choose who it imports? Or are we just all cultures, all the same, open border, come on in type of stuff? Get to the phone lines here. Let's go to Steve in Denver. Good morning, Stephen. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, good morning.
Okay, I got an opinion on that. But before I start, the Republicans and Trump need to start taking a page out of the Democratic playbook. They need to know how to manipulate the English language. Trump is not going to deport anybody. He's going to repatriate them.
And
that's clever.
Send them back to where they were.
That's clever. I'll give you that
well,
one, man.
No, they're not being sent back. They're being repatriated. Let's just use that word. How many times in the last 50 years have I heard the Democrats come up with all kinds of other words for something that is obvious, but it's kinder, gentler, sweeter, nicer. So here's the thing. The Muslim world, when they have a problem in their country and the people leave, they don't go to other Muslim countries. They're not even welcome. I think that we should be able to allow legal immigration and have some limits as to what the abilities are of the people coming in. We don't have to accept willy-nilly, and the Western cultures that do that are idiots.
I think Western Europe is seeing a lot of problems around this. I mean, to your point on those numbers, Bill, 5 million.
Yeah, I went back and checked. Yeah, that is
120,000, 5 million Muslims into Amsterdam.
Yeah,
versus 120,000 Jews.
Yeah, and that's yeah. I think some of it.
Charlemagne would be rolling in his grave.
Yeah, and I think some of it, Stephen, also is vetting in some other stuff because, again, Islam's the largest religion out there. And so you have a possibility of larger numbers of people being radicalized just because of the sheer population. If it was a smaller religion, it wouldn't be the potential for the number of peoples. And so some of this, I think you're right, goes back to some of the vetting as well. And as we talked about, some of those Muslim countries aren't going to share the information with you.
Also, Billy, some people think that it's really not a religion, that it's a world domination organization. And I'm not a great debater with all kinds of great knowledge of history, but just from a regular guy, I kind of wonder if, you convert or you get the sword. I mean, it's starting to kind of look like a world domination organization versus a religion.
Yeah, I can see that, and that's part of what the Crusades were. But again, those of us that follow the cross were on the other side, talking about how that should be the dominant religion and the dominant ruling structure inside of the world. So there's kind of a horse apiece on both of those. But I do agree with you that there is a movement inside of the world of Islam that doesn't exist as strong. It's there, but it's not necessarily as strong inside the Christian world as far as a theocracy. I believe that inside the Muslim world, they view a theocracy to be much more pure and much more aligned with the intentions of God than I believe Christians do. There's a segment of them that think that's how we should operate, would be a theocracy. But I think you're right, that there's a larger segment inside of the Muslim population. And I would say it's the Shia rather than the Sunni are more given to that disposition. And then we don't have that same split inside of Christianity. Except for the Mormons. They're just weird. No, sorry, I'm just making fun. I'm just being silly. Sorry, that wasn't fair.
Do you think, though, that you're going to get this big pushback that Trump had in the first 4 years about the, quote, Muslim ban when he's picking and choosing which countries we can immigrate people into or immigrate from?
They're going to throw everything at him that they possibly can. And if that's not working, they'll make stuff up. I mean, it's
true.
They're desperate. They're trying to throw a Hail Mary.
But Steve, I got a question for you. Do you think the Democrats learned in this election about immigration? Because look, I want to go back to Kamala Harris from kind of open border, progressive, allow lots of people into, we're going to make this a big priority. And it was Donald Trump who stopped this at Congress. Do you think Democrats have changed their mind on this kind of woke mind virus? Anybody and everybody, welcome, come on in, no borders, we'll provide for you. Do you think there's been some reanalysis of that position from their perspective?
I pray that they haven't.
Because we'll continue to win. That's why.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I live, out here in Aurora. I'm on the edge of Denver and Aurora, and I hear a lot of sirens. And had the defund the police actually worked, we wouldn't hear so damn many sirens.
No. Fortunately, I think Colorado, being this little blue island, is going to continue to get crazier and crazier because of immigration. People are going to be moving in to this state from conservative Texas and Florida, and it's just going to get crazier. Build a wall around Colorado. Go ahead, Stephen.
Are you going to have that lady on from Aurora, the city council lady?
Yeah, Danielle Jurinsky. Yeah, we'll get an update from her. We should check in on her. She's great, isn't she? Stephen, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Stephen. Have a good day.
Look, our friends over at Colorado Christian University have an exclusive luncheon and lecture this Friday, November 15th, featuring the 48th Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, and his wife, former Second Lady, Karen Pence, in partnership with the Centennial Institute and CCU President Eric Hogue. This event offers a unique opportunity to engage in conversation with Vice President Pence, one of America's most dedicated public servants, sharing his insights on the future of the conservative movement. Be among the first to experience the new Armstrong Center as CCU launches its President Speaker Series on this historic occasion. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. Limited tickets are available for breakfast with Karen Pence, lunch with Mike Pence, and morning and evening lectures. Throughout the day, you'll engage in conversations on leadership, faith, and service with these distinguished guests. Please join CCU on November 15th for these events with Mike and Karen Pence. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. That's ccu.edu/Pence. That is this Friday. I wonder what he's going to have to say about Donald Trump.
That's going to be interesting. Yeah. Grab your tickets. That's going to be an interesting conversation.
I mean, my mind is just kind of going to different places he could go on it.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem is probably not good to do sour grapes. It's probably not the right place and time.
But he has legitimate critiques around the kind of a weakening of the party on pro-life issues.
Yeah, he does. He's got a really strong there. Because again, we talked about how during the campaign, Donald Trump turned and said that he was going to be very open to protecting women's reproductive rights, very open to and changing where he was on the possibility of a national abortion ban. He had gone from, well, we can look at it, to maybe it's a 6-week bill to maybe 20 weeks to 22. And so I don't think he's made up his mind yet.
So that'll be Friday. Mike Pence at Colorado Christian University. All right, we'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Did you see this? Spirit Airlines plane hit by gunfire in Haiti?
Yes.
Forced to divert. And like
hell?
they had to take the flight attendant to get her medical attention.
Yes. I look at, okay.
There's so many jokes here.
Yeah, there are.
You got Haiti, you've got Spirit Airlines. Bro, have I told you about my Spirit Airlines experience?
No, what? Do share.
So you always hear the stories about Spirit Airlines, right? That it's just another class of folks flying on it, right? So I'm flying.
Aren't those the planes where you all get like there are pedals underneath? You all have to pedal at the same time to make sure the plane gets off the ground. Isn't that the one?
Dude, I was at an Orlando airport, and these rednecks have been drinking since like 3 p.m. and it was like an 8 p.m. flight. They were at the Applebee's.
Yeah.
And they were just drinking.
Oh, wow.
They got in the biggest fist fight. I mean, it was an all-out brawl. I filmed the whole thing. These guys had broken noses, broken hands.
Oh, my God.
Like 18 cops jumping on all of them. All out, bro. And I'm sitting there going, no way this just happened on Spirit Airlines. Like you hear that is just another level. And they went into and it was like over who got to board first or whatnot.
No.
Just pure fisticuffs.
Oh my God.
Blood everywhere, cops everywhere. I'm like, of course this happens on a Spirit Airlines flight.
That's funny. You know what they should do is for Spirit Airlines flights, when you have to line up on either side of you, instead of just like the regular queue, they should be putting wrestling ring ropes on either side. And they should have some sort of wrestling announcer there. And now getting ready for boarding. Yeah, that's
and I've never seen that with Frontier. I've never seen it with Southwest, but I flew one time with Spirit, and of course, half the plane ended up in custody.
Spirit Airlines, where you may not arrive with all your teeth.
Right. Maybe shot at as well. Oh, my goodness. All right. If you missed the show, go to 710knus.com. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS. I hope you have a good Tuesday.